Chapter 532. The barren ancient sect disciples had been arrogant when they came and sealed the space. But now, the situation was completely reversed. The barren ancient sect disciple looked at Chu Fengmian and shouted angrily, "Brat, what do you want? What do I want?" Chu Fengmian curled his lips and said coldly, "Didn't I just say it? Why? Are you deaf? Can't you hear me? Then I'll tell you one more time. None of you will leave here alive today." Chu Fengmian's words were filled with killing intent. If he wanted to kill, he wouldn't kill a single one of them. All the barren ancient sect disciples had to die today. As for the remaining three, could it be that they were waiting for the three of them to inform Chu Fengmian so that they could deal with him? Chu Fengmian's words caused an uproar. Chu Fengmian had already killed Wang Ji and Rong Bei, but that wasn't enough. Chu Fengmian's words meant that he wanted to kill all five of the barren ancient sect disciples. His words were extremely arrogant. "Little bastard, you're courting death." When the three barren ancient sect disciples heard Chu Fengmian's words, they could no longer hold back their anger. The three of them were disciples of the barren ancient sect and were absolute geniuses. But in Chu Fengmian's words, they were like tofu that he could do whatever he wanted with them. "Today, we'll kill you even if we have to sacrifice the ancient god elixir." The three barren ancient sect disciples each took out a spiritual elixir. The spiritual elixir was engraved with complicated runes. Ancient god elixir. This is the ancient god elixir that the barren ancient sect specially refined. Some of the North region martial artists were filled with fear when they saw the ancient god elixir. The ancient god elixir was a unique spiritual elixir refined by the barren ancient sect. It was a unique elixir that only the barren ancient sect could refine. It was extremely famous in the North region. Once a disciple of the desolate ancient sect consumed the desolate ancient divine pill, their potential would be instantly stimulated and their strength would increase by several folds. Therefore, consuming a desolate ancient divine pill was definitely the most powerful tactic in a battle. "Little bastard, we didn't plan to waste the ancient god elixir on you. Now that you've angered us, we'll fulfill your wish today. Go to hell." The three disciples of the desolate ancient sect roared at the same time and swallowed the ancient god pill. The moment they consumed the ancient god pill, their hearts were filled with heartache. Even in the desolate ancient sect, the ancient god elixir was an extremely valuable item. They had spent a huge sum of money to obtain it. It was meant to be used when exploring Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling. After swallowing and refining the desolate god pill, the strength of the three desolate ancient sects disciples instantly skyrocketed. Their cultivation base also leaped into the first layer of life and death realm. Just the aura on his body was enough to contend against a fourth-level life and death realm expert. No one can go against the ancient desolate sect and the seven great sects. "Little bastard, you must die today." After the strength of the three desolate ancient sect disciples skyrocketed, countless spiritual energies started to converge. It transformed into a massive path in the sky. As the three of them stepped onto the desolate ancient path, their auras became even more terrifying. "Ancient god pill, to deal with me, they're really going all out." Chu Fengmian sneered in his heart as he looked at the three desolate ancient sect disciples. Chu Fengmian naturally knew about the ancient god pill. It was a unique pill of the desolate ancient sect. It could stimulate the potential of the desolate ancient sect disciples and increase their strength. However, stimulating one's potential was an extremely crazy thing. Consuming the ancient god pill could indeed increase one's strength significantly in a short period of time. However, once the pill lost its effect, their potential would be greatly damaged, and it would be difficult for them to improve further. It could be said that it was a method of mutual destruction. "Little bastard, the bloodline in your body is definitely not an ordinary Dragon Clan bloodline. It might even be the bloodline of a Dragon King or Dragon Emperor. If we kill you and take your bloodline, we can make up for all our losses." One of the desolate ancient sect disciples looked at Chu Fengmian and shouted, "Prepare to die. Desolate ancient path. Condense." The spiritual energies of the three desolate ancient sect disciples were completely activated. Waves of spiritual energy started to condense, and the surrounding void started to change. The desolate ancient path under their feet also started to turn from illusory to solid. Eventually, it turned into a bronze-colored path. Countless ancient inscriptions were engraved on the desolate ancient path. The three desolate ancient sect disciples stood on the desolate ancient path, as if they had transcended everything in the world. They were separated from the surrounding space. The desolate ancient path has been condensed. With the desolate ancient path condensed by the three of them, even an ordinary life and death realm expert would have a hard time breaking it. This is too terrifying. The three of them are comparable to life and death realm experts, who can break the desolate ancient path formed by their combined strength. Legend has it that the desolate ancient path can connect to the desolate ancient path. Standing on it is equivalent to being in the desolate ancient era. It can cross space, and all spiritual energies will be ineffective. On the contrary, the attacks of these desolate ancient sect disciples contain the power of the desolate ancient era. Every move of theirs is countless times stronger. This is simply an invincible technique. This kid has kicked an iron plate this time. He failed to keep his opponent and is about to be killed. No matter how many techniques he has, they're all meaningless in front of the desolate ancient path. Some of the North Region martial artists who had heard of the desolate ancient path shook their heads. Once the desolate ancient path was formed, the three desolate ancient sect disciples were already in an invincible position. There was no suspense in the following battle. Little bastard, go and repent after you're dead. You dare to go against our desolate ancient sect. There's only one outcome for you, and that is to fall forever. Perish. A desolate ancient sect disciple stood on the desolate ancient path, looking down at Chu Fengyan as he shouted, "Desolate ancient path, perish!" Rumble. The desolate ancient sect disciple condensed his spiritual energy and swept it over. This spiritual energy seemed ordinary, but when it was formed by the desolate ancient path, it suddenly contained countless mysterious powers. This was the desolate ancient path that could cross space and time. His casual attack had turned into the most mysterious martial technique. This desolate ancient path was like a tsunami, crazily sweeping over, directly engulfing Chu Fengyan's body. Under this power, no one below the life and death realm could resist. Chapter 533. The ancient desolation energy turned into a huge ocean. The endless energy was like a tsunami, sucking Chu Fengyan's body into it. The desolation Tao could turn the simplest spiritual energy into the terrifying ancient desolation energy. Once the ancient desolation energy was unleashed, it was invincible and could devour everything. The entire secret chamber seemed to be shaking under the impact of the energy. The three desolate ancient sect disciples were geniuses. Each of them was strong enough to fight against a second-tier life and death realm martial artist. Now that they had devoured the ancient god pill, their cultivation level had skyrocketed to the fourth-tier life and death realm. Now that the three of them had joined forces and condensed the desolation Tao, the energy that burst out could kill 100 peak saints instantly. It's over. This kid is dead for sure under such a terrifying attack. Humph. He dares to go against the 7 major sects and the desolate ancient sect. He's digging his own grave. The desolate ancient sect is a colossus. A single strand of hair from them can crush an ant like him. All kinds of spiritual consciousnesses were intertwined. Some were mocking, some were regretful. Everyone present felt that Chu Fengyan was doomed. In order to kill this brat, we wasted a desolate god pill each. We even overdrew our potential. We really paid a huge price. A desolate ancient sect disciple looked at Chu Fengyan, who was drowned in the ancient desolation energy, and said slowly, "But if we kill him and get his bloodline, we can make up for all our losses." Such a small fry can have such terrifying strength after a fortuitous encounter. Plus, the opening of the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor Cave Mansion. The North region has many fortuitous encounters. Kill him and get his fortuitous encounter. Although we won't get much when we return to the desolate ancient sect, we can still soar and have a bright future. The desolate ancient sect disciples talked to each other as they watched Chu Fumian being attacked by the ancient desolation energy. Bang! Suddenly, an extremely pure dragon's aura resounded in the ancient desolation energy. The moment this dragon's aura resounded, the surrounding ancient desolation energy seemed to be intimidated and began to crack. The secret chamber began to shake violently, and countless amounts of spiritual energy suddenly burst out from within. Primordial power? Compared to 10,000 years ago, the disciples of the ancient Baron sect can't even be compared. They can't even gather 1/10 of the ancient Baron force. Do you think you can suppress me? A loud laugh rang out. Everyone present could hear the mockery in his laughter. Boom! The sea of primordial power suddenly split into two. Chu Fumian leaped out with the scarlet flame, sword in hand. Shattered Sea. Chu Fumian's sword intent merged with the power of the battle dragon technique at the same time, completely condensing on the sword in his hand. As the sword descended, the ocean formed by the power of the ancient desolate realm began to shatter. The sea-shattering sword was one of the 3 swords that Chu Fumian had created in his previous life. The swordsmanship that Chu Fumian had created in his previous life was only theoretical and could not be put into practice. Now, Chu Fumian finally had enough strength to put the swordsmanship that he had created into practice. Rumble. The vast ocean formed by the power of the ancient desolate realm collapsed in an instant. The power of the ancient desolate realm was enough to crush the ocean, but it collapsed just like that. Impossible. How can the ancient desolate realm be broken so easily? What kind of swordsmanship is this? I haven't even seen it before. This swordsmanship has reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship. A sect of the barren ancient sect, disciple exclaimed. He could only watch helplessly as the power of the barren ancient sect was destroyed. The moment the ancient desolate realm was formed, their victory should have been decided. Who would have thought that Chu Fumian would break it so easily? Don't be afraid. So what if he can dissolve the ancient desolate realm once? We have formed the ancient desolate realm, and we will never be defeated. Continue to attack. I don't believe that this brat can resist. A disciple of the ancient Baron sect shouted. Another boundless ancient desolate realm swept out from the ancient desolate realm and bombarded Chu Fumian. It's useless. Chu Fumian snorted. The sword in his hand moved again. With a slash, the ancient desolate realm was broken again. At the same time, Chu Fumian's body disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the ancient desolate realm. What are you trying to do? You are courting death by going against the ancient desolate realm. We are stepping on the ancient desolate realm. Let's see how you're going to fight against us. The 3 disciples of the ancient Baron sect were shocked when they saw Chu Fumian rushing over. Then they sneered. After the ancient desolate realm was formed, they stepped on it. This meant that all forces in the ancient desolate realm would be canceled out by time and space. They were almost invincible. Is that so? Stepping on the ancient desolate realm? You are just borrowing the power of the ancient desolate realm. Break! Chu Fumian roared and moved the sword in his hand. The sword slashed on the ancient desolate realm. Is he crazy? The ancient desolate realm is invincible. This brat is trying to resist the power of the ancient desolate realm. Before the disciples of the ancient Baron sect could finish their questioning, in the next moment, the seemingly ancient Great Tao on the desolate ancient Great Tao started to shatter layer by layer. The power within it seemed to have been completely stripped away. Without the support of power, it shattered on the spot. So what if you have the ancient desolate realm? You are just borrowing the power of the ancient desolate realm. Today, I will sever the river of time and space. I will break your ancient desolate realm. Chu Fumian roared loudly. His voice was like a dragon's roar. The tip of his sword moved and slashed on the ancient desolate realm. Behind the ancient desolate realm was a huge and deep river. This river was deeper than any other river. It came from the river of time. The ancient desolate realm was absorbing the power of the ancient desolate realm from this river. The river of time and space will be destroyed in front of me. My sword is enough to destroy the ancient desolate realm. Anyone who goes against me will be destroyed. Chu Fumian's sword slashed down, and the river of time and space was broken on the spot. Countless people watched helplessly as Chu Fumian broke the ancient desolate realm and even severed the river of time and space behind it. The three disciples of the ancient Baron sect were sent flying. They vomited blood from the impact of the sword. Without the protection of the ancient desolate realm, the strength of the three of them was nothing in front of Chu Fumian. Chapter 534. The nearly invincible desolation Great Tao was broken by Chu Fumian's sword in front of everyone. Even the river of time and space behind the desolation Great Tao was destroyed by Chu Fumian's sword. Oh my God, what kind of strength is this? How much power is this person hiding? When did such a terrifying genius appear in our North region? His strength has already surpassed the North Sea Academy's seed disciples. Could he be the next Yi Tianjun? The desolation Great Tao, created by the three desolate ancient sect disciples by consuming the desolate ancient divine pill, was broken just like that. How is this possible? Voices of astonishment rang out one after another. Countless eyes looked at Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian took a step forward. Chu Fumian waved his hand and grabbed at the desolate ancient sect disciples. The desolate ancient Great Tao was broken. Impossible. The desolate ancient Great Tao that we condensed might not even be broken by a high-level life and death realm expert. How could it be broken by this brat's sword? The three desolate ancient sect disciples were forced to retreat. Their eyes were filled with shock. Until now, they still hadn't recovered from their shock. The desolate ancient Great Tao had already been condensed. The three of them should have been invincible. But right before their eyes, the desolate ancient Great Tao was broken by Chu Fumian's sword. The desolate ancient Great Tao was the foundation of the desolate ancient sect. Everyone in the 9 regions knew how powerful it was. But now, it was broken by a 4th-level divine power realm martial artist. Who would have thought that it would be broken? The desolate ancient sect has been arrogant since 10,000 years ago. Who would have thought that after 10,000 years, not only did they not change their arrogance, but their disciples are also getting worse and worse? Chu Fumian looked at the 3 desolate ancient sect disciples and shouted coldly, "The 3 of you have had some fortuitous encounters. Killing you is enough to make up for my loss. Come here." The desolate ancient Great Tao that the 3 desolate ancient sect disciples had condensed with almost all their strength had already been broken. They didn't have any strength to fight back. In front of Chu Fumian, they were grabbed and held in the palm of his hand. Each and every one of their faces turned red. "You can't kill us. We're disciples of the desolate ancient sect." "So much nonsense. Since I've already killed 2 of them, the 3 of you won't make a difference." Chu Fumian snorted coldly as he exerted more force in his hands. The 3 desolate ancient sect disciples were squashed flat by this force. "Stop. You can't kill these 3. A voice could be heard all of a sudden as a figure dashed out from the side. This figure was tall and filled with hatred. It was none other than Luo Zhanhen. Luo Zhanhen reached out to grab Chu Fumian. It seemed like he wanted to rescue the 3 desolate ancient sect disciples from Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian glanced at Luo Zhanhen and increased the strength in his hand. The 3 disciples of the desolate ancient sect screamed in agony before they were crushed by Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian waved his hand and collected all of their fortuitous encounters, blood auras, and spatial rings. "Damn it!" Luo Zhanhen looked at Chu Fumian with a flushed face. He had already spoken, but Chu Fumian ignored him and killed the 3 from the desolate ancient sect on the spot. Luo Zhanhen shouted as he pointed at Chu Fumian. "Brat, do you know that you have made a grave mistake? You have gotten yourself into big trouble. The 3 of them are from the desolate ancient sect. If you kill them now, it will not only bring you trouble, but it will also bring trouble to the academy. Do you know that?" Chu Fumian glanced at Luo Zhanhen and said calmly, "Trouble? If there is trouble, I will deal with it myself. You don't have to worry about it." "Deal with it myself?" A look of displeasure appeared on Luo Zhanhen's face. These are the disciples of the desolate ancient sect. They represent the 7 major sections. You have offended the academy, and you have committed a grave sin. Yet, you are still unrepentant. Luo Zhanhen's tone sounded like a superior reprimanding his subordinate. Chu Fengmian frowned, and his voice turned cold. "Luo Zhanhen, I don't need you to tell me what to do." Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. No one could stop Chu Fengmian from killing anyone. It was ridiculous for Luo Zhanhen to bring up Beimang Academy to suppress Chu Fengmian. Not to mention the fact that no one could control Chu Fengmian. The disciples of the desolate ancient sect today deserve to die. Chu Fengmian had killed them with a clear conscience. "You don't need me to interfere? Great. A mere freshman of Beimang Academy dares to be so arrogant. When we return to the academy, I will report your sins to the Hall of Penal Law. Let's see if you're truly lawless." Luo Zhanhen snorted and turned to leave. "Try to leave?" Chu Fengmian snorted and waved his hand, blocking Luo Zhanghen's path. "Who allowed you to leave?" Luo Zhanhen reprimanded Chu Fengmian and wanted to leave. He even wanted to report today's incident to the Hall of Penal Law. How could Chu Fengmian let him leave? The Hall of Penal Law was the largest and most important hall in Beimang Academy. Those who entered the Hall of Penal Law would be skinned, even if they were innocent. Luo Zhanhen had used the Path of Changhen to sneak up on Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian remembered everything. How could he leave so casually? Luo Zhanhen looked at Chu Fengmian blocking his path and shouted angrily, "Chu Fengmian, what are you trying to do? I'm a seed disciple of Beimang Academy. How dare you offend me?" "What am I trying to do?" "Luo Zhanhen, do you think I wouldn't notice you sneak up on me? Are you trying to escape now?" Chu Fengmian looked at Luo Zhanhen and laughed. "Luo Zhanhen, you probably don't know my methods. Those who dare to sneak up on me must die. You too, a seed disciple of Beimang Academy? I even dared to kill people from the 7 major sections. Who do you think you are? Go to hell." Chu Fengmian gathered his spiritual energy and transformed it into the battle dragon claw. He slashed down from the sky. "Damn it, kid, you are really lawless. How dare you kill your fellow disciples? You're a devil." Luo Zhanghen's expression changed when he saw Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw. He didn't restrain his spiritual energy at all. He had seen Chu Fengmian's strength before. If he held back in front of Chu Fengmian, he wouldn't be able to show it again. Blade of everlasting hatred. Luo Zhanghen's endless hatred condensed into the blade of everlasting hatred in his hand. He suddenly slashed the blade towards the sky. Luo Zhanghen was delusional to think that the blade of everlasting hatred could resist the battle dragon claw. "Ridiculous," Chu Fengmian said indifferently. The battle dragon claw fell mercilessly. Immediately, the power of the blade of everlasting hatred was crushed by the battle dragon claw. Chapter 535. Even Wang Ji from the desolate ancient sect could not block Chu Fengmian's war dragon claw. Luo Zhanhen was not even as strong as Wang Ji. How could he block it? The everlasting hatred saber formed by Luo Zhanhen's everlasting hatred path blocked the war dragon claw in an instant. It was destroyed on the spot like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Damn it, how could this kid be so powerful? Luo Zhanhen was sweating from anxiety. He felt it after testing it out. The power of Chu Fengmian's war dragon claw was unshakable. It was extremely powerful. He could not compete with Chu Fengmian even if he used all his means. Now Luo Zhanhen regretted for the first time. He regretted attacking Chu Fengmian out of jealousy. Now that his sneak attack had failed, he had brought trouble to himself. Hurry up and attack. Deal with this kid. He is already a demon who killed his fellow disciples. If we don't kill him today, we will all die here. Luo Zhanhen suddenly shouted. Hearing his words, the eyes of countless martialists present flickered. Chu Fengmian's aptitude was indeed too terrifying. With such aptitude, sooner or later, Chu Fengmian would step on everyone's head. He had such terrifying strength at Divine Power Realm Level 4. Even Luo Zhanhen, who was a seed disciple of the Beimang Academy, could not fight back against Chu Fengmian. They did not dare to think about how many fortuitous encounters Chu Fengmian had. However, the Dragon Clan martial technique was already an amazing fortuitous encounter. War Demon Supremacy was the first to rush up. He was good friends with Holy Sun Guei Gu. Now that Holy Sun Guei Gu had died in Chu Fengmian's hands, he would be the first to kill Chu Fengmian to avenge Holy Sun Guei Gu. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's aptitude made him feel fearful. If Chu Fengmian was allowed to develop further, the consequences would be unimaginable. That's right. Everyone should get rid of this demon. Brother Luo, let me help you. War Demon Supremacy looked at the crowd and shouted, "All disciples of the Earth Demon sect, kill him." Yes. Immediately, more than 10 venerables appeared from the crowd. They were all disciples of the Earth Demon sect. The eyes of these Earth Demon sect disciples were filled with greed. After killing Chu Fengmian, any one of them could reach the sky in a single bound. Boom, boom, boom. Countless Earth Demon sect disciples attacked at the same time. Suddenly, the secret chamber was filled with a monstrous demonic aura. The demonic will swirled around Venerable War Demon. Suddenly, Venerable War Dragon transformed into a gigantic demonic god. This demon god had 3 heads and 6 arms. On each of its 6 arms, there were various weapons. Although these weapons were all condensed from demonic will, they were still extremely powerful. However, the sharpness of it was not the slightest bit inferior to that of many Earth-grade spirit artifacts. 100-Battle Demon God. This was the phantom of the 100-Battle Demon God. Your martial Dao is already strong enough to summon the 100-Battle Demon God. Luo Zhanin glanced at the War Demon Supremacy and asked in shock, "Good. With your brother War Demon's help, this brat will definitely die today." Die, brat. Endless, everlasting hatred. Endless hatred. Luo Zhanin was surrounded by an endless amount of hatred. It was so intense that one would be lost in it. Luo Zhanin's eyes turned red. His everlasting hatred path was usually very clear-headed. However, the strongest technique of the everlasting hatred path was to use hatred to deceive oneself, allowing Luo Zhanin to erupt with terrifying power. Chu Fengmian was now Luo Zhanin's mortal enemy. The hatred from killing his father and stealing his wife could not be compared to the hatred in Luo Zhanin's heart. In Luo Zhanin's heart, he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian 1,000 times. Even 10,000 times would not be able to wash away his hatred. "I want you dead. Heaven's hatred. Heaven's hatred blade." The everlasting hatred blade condensed in Luo Zhanin's hand again. This time, the everlasting hatred blade was many times more terrifying than before. This was Luo Zhanin's true Tao of enduring hatred. The blade light flashed, as if it was going to slay even the heavens. The 100 Battles Demon God that the War Demon Reverend had transformed into had also completely condensed. Its terrifying power and 6 arms bombarded Chu Fengmian at the same time. In terms of might, the bombardment of so much power wasn't much weaker than the power of the primordial Tao displayed by the primordial Tao. However, Chu Fengmian's face was as calm as ever in the face of such terrifying power. He was not afraid at all. "You're just a few more ants that have come to die. I have never intended to let the people of the Earth Demon sect go." Chu Fengmian roared. "Massacre Path. Ancient Massacre God." The Ancient Massacre God suddenly condensed behind Chu Fengmian's back. Boundless blood, qi, surrounded the blade of his sword. The blood qi surged and was 10,000 feet wide. It even filled the secret chamber completely. Boom! As Chu Fengmian's sword fell, the blood qi turned into a bloody scar and fell on the spot. The numerous forces and martial techniques were all shattered and devoured by the bloody scar. All these forces were meaningless in front of Chu Fengmian. "Luo Zhanin, I will kill you first. Then I will take care of these little demons." Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. Among everyone present, his greatest enemy was Luo Zhanin. Chu Fengmian moved the spiritual power in his palm and crushed the space around Luo Zhanin. He grabbed his body directly. The everlasting hatred path around Luo Zhanin was shattered by this grab. Luo Zhanhen was held in Chu Fengmian's hand. The moment of life and death crisis woke Luo Zhanhen up instantly. Brother Kanglin, Brother Ku Xiao, are you two still not going to make a move? If you don't make a move, we will not be able to deal with this person. Luo Zhanhen shouted. It was impossible to deal with Chu Fengmian alone. He, the war demon reverend, and a dozen disciples of the earth demon sect were no match for Chu Fengmian. Now, he could only rope in others to deal with Chu Fengmian together. Kanglin Ba and Ku Xiao Tian looked extremely serious. Chu Fengmian's strength was far beyond their imagination. The moment they saw Luo Zhanhen fall into Chu Fengmian's hand, a figure suddenly moved. This figure was Ku Xiao Tian. Suddenly, a gray fog came out of Ku Xiao Tian's body. Within the gray-colored fog, one could feel that everything within it was about to decay. Another one has come to die. Chapter 536. Another one has come to court death. Chu Fengmian looked at Ku Xiao Tian and said calmly. To Chu Fengmian, Ku Xiao Tian's action to save Luo Zhanhen was just another person courting death. This kid can't be left alive. Ku Xiao Tian knew how powerful and terrifying Chu Fengmian was. Luo Zhanhen, battle demon venerable, and a dozen earth demon sect disciples were still no match for Chu Fengmian. If a high-level life and death realm expert could do this, it wouldn't be surprising. However, Chu Fengmian was just a 4th-level divine power realm expert. If Chu Fengmian could do this, Ku Xiao Tian could tell that Chu Fengmian was a monster. With every battle, Chu Fengmian's strength would grow stronger. It was especially so when the number of trump cards on Chu Fengmian's body seemed endless. If they didn't kill Chu Fengmian now, he would pose a threat to them sooner or later. No, he would trample them to death sooner or later. If we don't get rid of this monster, he will become a great threat. Ku Xiao Tian's spiritual energy rose steadily, and the black fog around his body grew larger. Among the countless experts in the secret chamber, Ku Xiao Tian had always been the most mysterious one. Unlike Luo Zhanhen, battle demon venerable, and the others, Ku Xiao Tian came from a secret force. No one knew his true strength, but they knew that he wasn't any weaker than Luo Zhanhen. Withering heaven and earth, the only outcome of this world is withering. Ku Xiao Tian let out a long roar, and the gray fog around his body immediately swept toward Chu Fengmian. The gray fog made contact with any spiritual energy that came into contact with it. Layers of gray spiritual energy immediately surrounded Chu Fengmian, trapping him. Great! With Brother Ku Xiao's help, this kid will die today. Luo Zhanhen was overjoyed when he saw Ku Xiao Tian make his move. Everlasting hatred Tao. My everlasting hatred Tao has reached greater completion. No one in this world can trap me. Luo Zhanhen let out a long roar. Suddenly, the everlasting hatred Tao burst out from his body and broke free from Chu Fengmian's palm. This hatred is endless. Luo Zhanhen broke free and swung his saber at Chu Fengmian. The war demon venerable transformed into 100 battle demon god. Suddenly, his 6 arms moved at the same time and bombarded Chu Fengmian. Ku Xiao Tian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, the gray fog around him started to gather and turned into a small dagger. He then stabbed it toward Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian laughed heartily. Facing the bombardment of countless martial skills, he let out a long whistle. No matter how many times you resist, it's meaningless. Today, none of you will leave here alive. Countless changes took place on Chu Fengmian's body in an instant. The power of the war dragon circled around him, and his body suddenly turned into the appearance of an ancient war dragon. The countless martial skills landed on the ancient era's war dragon that Chu Fengmian had transformed into. At the moment when they were about to reach him, they immediately turned into countless dragon scales around Chu Fengmian. The dragon scales formed a huge array. The countless dragon scales instantly neutralized the countless martial skills. There was no power that could approach Chu Fengmian or attack him. How dare you besiege me? Ku Xiao Tian, you will also die today. Chu Fengmian's body moved, and he suddenly rushed forward. He rushed into the crowd and transformed into an ancient war dragon. It was as though he would kill anyone who stood in his way. Die! Boom! The huge body of the war dragon suddenly collided with the crowd. The wanton spiritual energy in his body turned into a terrifying power and bombarded the crowd. Luo Zhanhen, War Demon Venerable, and Ku Xiu Tian were forced to retreat in the face of the war dragon's power. However, the disciples of the Earth Demon sect were one step too slow. Bang! Countless sounds were heard. The bodies of the Earth Demon sect's disciples were completely shattered by this attack, and they all died on the spot. Chu Fengyan devoured all the blood qi in their bodies, causing Chu Fengyan's aura to become much stronger. This is not good. We can't let him drag this out any longer. His strength is improving every moment. Every one of us is killed by him, and our power will be taken away by him. If this drags on, we won't be able to deal with him. Luo Zhanhen roared. Brother Kanglin, are you still not going to take action? Kill. Kanglin Ba spat out a word indifferently. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Suddenly, Kanglin Ba's martial arts were fully displayed. What he cultivated was the purest form of martial arts. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying punch had already blasted towards Chu Fengyan. Another one who is courting death. Luo Zhanhen, you have quite a number of helpers. Unfortunately, no matter how many people you have, your death is inevitable. Chu Fengyan looked at the Kanglin tyrant's punch with a calm expression. He activated the war dragon's body and waved his hand. It was as if the war dragon's claw had descended and completely blocked the punch. At the same time, Chu Fengyan's body rushed towards Luo Zhanhen. Chu Fengyan arrived in front of Luo Zhanhen in an instant. His speed was astonishing. Chu Fengyan did not feel any discomfort when he transformed into the ancient war dragon. Instead, he could feel that this form was the most suitable for him. Chu Fengyan could only unleash the full power of the war dragon technique in this form. War Dragon Grip. The huge war dragon's claw suddenly struck out towards Luo Zhanhen and clawed at him. Luo Zhanhen unleashed all his power and tried to escape. However, the space around him was completely sealed by the power of the claw. Bang! Luo Zhanhen was caught by Chu Fengyan before he could unleash his power. Damn it! Save Luo Zhanhen! War Demon Reverend and Ku Jiotian's faces changed drastically when they saw Luo Zhanhen being caught by Chu Fengyan. Waves of spiritual energy condensed into countless martial arts techniques and bombarded Chu Fengyan. Trying to save him? Chu Fengyan sneered. A terrifying power shrouded Luo Zhanhen's hand. This time, Chu Fengyan did not give Luo Zhanhen any chance to escape. He tightened his grip and crushed Luo Zhanhen on the spot. Blood splattered everywhere. Countless saints' blood essences flowed into Chu Fengyan's hand and were absorbed by him. Chapter 537. With a single claw, Luo Zhanhen was crushed to death by Chu Fengyan. Luo Zhanhen was crushed to death by Chu Fengyan. Countless people's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Luo Zhanhen was considered a somewhat famous genius expert in the North region. The seed disciples of the North Sea Academy had extremely high status in the academy. Moreover, they cultivated the Tao of everlasting hatred, which made them famous. Such an expert was actually crushed to death by someone. This was something that they could not believe no matter what. What level has this person's strength reached? Even Luo Zhanhen was crushed to death without any chance to retaliate. Even a 4th or 5th level life and death expert might not be able to do this. Kanglin Ba couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he watched this scene. His whole body was incomparably cold. None of the seed disciples of the North Sea Academy were ordinary. None of them could become a seed disciple of the academy. They were all geniuses among geniuses, famous geniuses in the North region. In terms of strength alone, Luo Zhanhen's strength wasn't inferior to many 2nd or 3rd level life and death experts. But now, Luo Zhanhen had died in Chu Fengyan's hands. How terrifying was Chu Fengyan's strength? Moreover, Chu Fengyan was only at the 4th level of the divine power realm. There was still a lot of room for improvement in the future. If Chu Fengyan was allowed to grow again, how astonishing would he be? Chu Fengyan had already obtained countless benefits from Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. If Chu Fengyan left today, it would be akin to nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. We can't let this kid leave alive today. Kunyo Tian, battle demon venerable, use all your strength. We must kill this person at all costs. Kanglan Ba shouted. He looked at Chu Fengyan with deep fear in his eyes. If such a genius really rose in the North region, it would definitely be their nightmare. Moreover, they were enemies with Chu Fengyan today. No matter what, Chu Fengyan wouldn't let them go. Martial Dao limit. Martial will of heaven. Kanglan Ba roared, condensing his spiritual power to the extreme. Beside him, countless treasures, spirit pills, wondrous items, and spirit stones were directly collected by his body. These things were all devoured by the deep water tyrant in an instant, causing his strength to increase by 10 times. The surges of power did not raise the level of the Kanglan tyrant. Instead, they were all integrated into his martial path. As a result, the Kanglan Hegemon's martial path had reached an inconceivable level. Martial God descends. Boom! A ray of light landed on Kanglan Ba's back. The silhouette of a person could be vaguely seen in the light. This figure was the legendary martial god, the person who had once reached the pinnacle of martial arts. Now, the Kanglan tyrant was going all out to summon the legendary martial god Shadow. This wasn't a secret technique. It was because his martial path had reached the limit, allowing the illusionary figure of the martial god to appear on its own. Compared to the one condensed by the secret technique, it was countless times more powerful. It was very similar to the ancient killing god phantom condensed by Chu Fengyan. Martial path, divine fist. Kanglan Hegemon suddenly roared and punched at Chu Fengyan. This punch contained the essence of martial arts and was incomparably mysterious. Although it seemed simple, it was impossible to dodge. The Kanglan tyrant is going all out. Let's attack too. Ku Xiaotian and the war demon Reverend looked at each other. They disregarded everything and unleashed all their trump cards. Today, Luo Zhanin had died at the hands of Chu Fengyan. If they didn't go all out, they would be defeated one by Chu Fengyan. Countless strong spiritual energies burst out wildly and suddenly formed a huge axe in front of Ku Xiaotian. This huge axe contained the power of the Kanglan Hegemon. It was as if everything that came into contact with this huge axe would decay. Kanglan Hegemon axe. Kanglan Hegemon. The huge axe suddenly rushed towards Chu Fengyan and chopped down violently. Kid decay. In front of this Kanglan Hegemon axe, even heaven and earth will decay. Heaven and earth will eventually perish. How can a little creature like you struggle when it decays? Ku Xiaotian sneered. He activated the Kanglan Hegemon axe and chopped down. His axe wasn't aimed at Chu Fengyan's body, but at his lifespan. His Kanglan Hegemon axe was strong enough to decay everything in the world. No matter how powerful a martial artist was, there would be a day when they would grow old, fall, and decay. His axe was aimed at Chu Fengyan's lifespan. The axe chopped out in an incomparably strange manner. Many people simply did not know how to block it. Kanglan Hegemon axe? The path of decay is not bad. Unfortunately, heaven and earth will decay, but I won't. I will live forever and never be defeated. Heaven and earth may perish, but I will live forever. Your Tao of decay is nothing but a joke in front of me. Chu Fengyan looked at the Kanglan Hegemon axe and waved his hand, blocking the Kanglan Hegemon axe with his bare hands. Chu Fengyan's hand held the Kanglan Hegemon axe and blocked all the power of the Kanglan Hegemon axe. Blocking it with your bare hands. You're courting death, the path of decay. Let him decay and perish. I will deprive you of your lifespan. Ku Xiaotian laughed when he saw Chu Fengyan's actions. He immediately activated the path of decay to its maximum. The Kanglan Hegemon axe suddenly dispersed with a bang and turned into a gray fog that surrounded Chu Fengyan. The gray fog was the chi of decay in heaven and earth. It was said that heaven and earth were eternal, but they also had lifespan. They could also be destroyed and reborn. It was the chi of decay that was causing trouble. The chi of decay was strong enough to decay everything that came into contact with it. A martial artist who came into contact with it would instantly lose countless years of their lifespan. However, Chu Fengyan stood where he was and allowed the decaying aura to revolve around him. Chu Fengyan's lips curled into a disdainful expression. Heaven and earth will decay, but I won't. I am a master of creation. Creation is eternal. I will also exist forever. An extremely strange power suddenly condensed on Chu Fengyan's body. It was the power of creation that came from the sword embryo in his body. The power of creation was the most powerful force in heaven and earth. Although the Kanglin Hegemon axe was powerful, the power of creation was eternal. The Kanglin Hegemon axe was useless in front of the power of creation. Devour everything. Chu Fengyan opened his mouth and swallowed all of the decaying qi into his mouth. The terrifying qi of decay was directly devoured by Chu Fengyan. Not only did Chu Fengyan's body not decay, but the aura on his body also became stronger. Chapter 538. Decaying qi was the most domineering energy in the world. Everything in the world could not escape from decaying. Even the world and heavens would decay and wither one day. But now, the decaying qi was being devoured by Chu Fengyan and was even being refined. Not only did it not affect Chu Fengyan's body, but it also turned into pure energy that helped Chu Fengyan condense the ancient battle dragon blood essence. Boom, boom, boom. Boundless spiritual energy surged from Chu Fengyan's body. His cultivation realm had broken through again after devouring the decaying qi. He reached the 5th level of the divine power realm in a single leap. In the deepest part of his body, the ancient battle dragon shadow had condensed a total of 7,500 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence. Great! Killing such a genius is indeed the best way to break through. Chu Fengyan was incomparably happy. Chu Fengyan came to Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's cave mansion and killed Prince Bai Gu, Saint Sun Gue Gu, the 5 people of desolate ancient sect, and now Luo Zhanin. With the power of the 8 people and the decaying qi from Kun Yo Tian, Chu Fengyan's strength had finally broken through again. What Chu Fengyan lacked now was his cultivation realm. His countless martial skills, spiritual weapons, and bloodline were all top-notch. Once his cultivation realm broke through, his strength would increase tremendously. Chu Fengyan only needed to break through again. Even if he faced a high-level life and death realm martial artist, Chu Fengyan still had the power to fight. Kun Yo Tian watched Chu Fengyan devour the decaying qi. Not only was Chu Fengyan unaffected, but his aura was also rising steadily and he had broken through again. Kun Yo Tian's expression could be described as sluggish. His eyes were about to fall out. His qi of decay had been condensed after he had cultivated the Tao of decay for several decades. Just that wisp of decaying aura was already half of his strength. Even a high-level life and death realm expert might not be able to resist it, not to mention devouring it. Even resisting it would be extremely difficult. Even powerful martial artists would be wary of the power of the Tao of decay. But now, Chu Fengyan directly devoured the decaying gas and converted the spiritual power within it into his own power. This is no longer human. It was a devil. No, even a devil wouldn't be able to do that. Withering and decaying is something that even the heavens and earth can't escape from. How could he escape? Ku Xiu Tian couldn't figure out how Chu Fengyan had done all this. This was the first time someone had broken through his Tao of withering and decay. His invincible Tao of withering and decay was now being devoured by someone else. The stimulation caused him to sink into madness. Kun Yo Tian, stop daydreaming. Make your move while this kid's cultivation is still unstable and weak. Once we kill him, we'll be able to claim all his fortunate encounters. The War Demon Knight roared and activated the power of the 100 Battle Demon God. The 6 weapons in his 6 arms. Saber, spear, sword, halberd, axe, spear. The 6 weapons were filled with sharp spiritual energy as they attacked at the same time. Chu Fengyan's breakthrough gave the War Demon Venerable an opportunity. He seized the opportunity to attack. A martial artist was at his weakest when he had just broken through. This was because once he had just broken through, his spiritual energy would be used to break through. When his spiritual energy was depleted, he would be at his weakest. This was the easiest time to defeat him. Chu Fengmian, you're too greedy. You broke through in front of us. You've given us a chance. Today, you'll die because of your greed. Fall. A person like you shouldn't exist in the North region. King Limba also let out a roar. Suddenly, he condensed his spiritual energy into a fist and punched out. 7 forms of the war god. Boom, 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 boom. King Limba punched out 7 times in a row. The power of each punch was as dazzling as the sun. The power contained in each punch was enough to tear apart countless martial artists present. The illusionary figure of the divine god of battle behind the Kanglan tyrant followed his movements and threw out 7 punches. A total of 14 dazzling suns appeared in the sky. Following Kanglan Ba's command, the power of countless punches blasted toward Chu Fengmian. Each sun represented the power of one Kanglan Ba. A total of 14 suns represented 14 times the power of Kanglan Ba's punch. With such power, it was easy to kill martial artists of the same realm. After seeing Chu Fengmian break through, War Demon Venerable and Kanglan Ba didn't hold back. They used all their trump cards to kill Chu Fengmian. They were planning to take advantage of Chu Fengmian's weakened state after his breakthrough to kill him. Weak? Do you think you have a chance because I've broken through? Unfortunately, my breakthrough only means that you won't have any more chances. Chu Fengmian was extremely relaxed in the face of the countless martial techniques. All of you break. He waved his hand, and a burst of spiritual energy was released. This burst of spiritual energy turned into a long rainbow. A beam of spiritual energy swept across the sky, and the 14 suns all shattered before this beam of spiritual energy and died on the spot. It was Kanglan Ba's martial path that was broken. His martial path was completely shattered by this burst of spiritual energy. His entire body was sent flying. With a PU sound, he spat out a large amount of blood. How can he have such terrifying power? Didn't he just break through? Why isn't he weak at all? Instead, his power is even more terrifying. War Demon Venerable saw that Kanglan Ba was defeated and his martial path was shattered. His mind was about to collapse. He thought that Chu Fengmian's breakthrough gave them a chance. They could join forces and burst out their power to kill Chu Fengmian. But now, Chu Fengmian's power wasn't weak at all. This terrifying and irresistible power was countless times stronger than before. Weak? Chu Fengmian sneered. War Demon Venerable would never have thought that Chu Fengmian had a divine pulse. Ordinary martial artists would fall into a period of weakness after breaking through. It would take at least a few days for them to recover completely. Therefore, the moment of breakthrough was the most dangerous moment. But Chu Fengmian was different. Chu Fengmian had a divine pulse. The spiritual energy he consumed during the breakthrough was instantly replenished by the divine pulse. It could be said that Chu Fengmian didn't have the concept of a weak period. Once he broke through, he would be in the most perfect state in the next moment. The two of them planned to use Chu Fengmian's weakness after breaking through to deal with him. This was the most foolish action. Chapter 539. Chu Fengmian stared at the Battle Demon Venerate as though he was looking at a dead man. Battle Demon Venerable, you killed Luo Zhanhen. Next, it's the turn of the demons from the Earth Demon sect. There's no need for the evil creatures left in 9 Demon City to live. Chu Fengmian shouted coldly and pressed down with his palm. There was nothing fancy about this palm. It was just Chu Fengmian's condensed spiritual power. Crack! The weapons held by the 6 arms of the warring demon god, transformed from the warring demon Venerable, were instantly shattered by the spiritual power of this palm. One after another, the weapons were broken. That was not the end of it. Next, the 100 battle demon god's arms and body were crushed by the force of the attack. The battle demon Venerable felt the irresistible power and roared loudly. He had already squeezed out all the potential and strength in his body to the extreme in order to resist Chu Fengmian's power. However, the power of Chu Fengmian's palm was so great that even the battle demon Venerable could not resist it. He was like an ant. Even if he used all his strength, he could not compete with an elephant. Boom! The 100-battle demonic god was smashed into smithereens by this single palm strike. Countless spiritual energies were shattered, and the war demon supremacy's figure was sent flying out of it. Countless cracks had appeared on his chest. It was obvious that he was seriously injured. Don't kill me. Spare me. I'm just an ant. I'm willing to submit to you. Please spare my life. The battle demon Venerable knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Under Chu Fumian's power, his mind collapsed. He no longer had the courage to resist and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. Submit to me? You little devils from the Earth Demon sect aren't worthy. Chu Fumian glanced at the battle demon Venerable and pressed down with his palm. The battle demon Venerable's body suddenly began to swell. Like an inflated rubber ball, it was about to burst at any moment. No, I'm the battle demon Venerable. I've had countless adventures and have a high status in the Earth Demon sect. I'm a famous genius in the northern region with a bright future. I don't want to die. No. The battle demon Venerable roared crazily. Finally, he screamed. Under Chu Fumian's merciless palm, his body was completely shattered and exploded. Chu Fumian had taken away all of the battle demon Venerable's blood, fortune, and wealth in an instant. All the spiritual power was devoured by Chu Fumian's body. Chu Fumian condensed the ancient battle dragon blood essence to increase his strength. Run! Kanglin Ba and Ku Xiu Tian lost all will to fight when they saw Chu Fumian slap the battle demon supremacy to death. Their hearts were filled with fear. They couldn't wait to run away and get as far away from Chu Fumian as possible. This person is no longer human. He's simply a monster. Even Yi Tianjun, who was called a monster in the Northern Sea Academy, wasn't this terrifying. Let's escape and spread the news. I'm sure countless factions will come to eliminate him. They Sun, Tian, and their spiritual consciousness as. They had made up their minds to spread the news about Chu Fumian after they escaped. The North Mang Academy had many enemies in the northern region. There would definitely be countless experts who would come to kill Chu Fumian and prevent him from growing. Moreover, Chu Fumian had killed 5 disciples of the Ancient Baron sect. Once they spread the news, the Ancient Baron sect would send countless experts to deal with Chu Fumian. They had thought of a plan to deal with Chu Fumian. You want to escape now? It's too late. You two trash want to deal with me and spread the news about me? Ridiculous. Chu Fumian snorted. He waved his hand, and the surrounding space was sealed. At the same time, his 2 arms reached out to grab Ku Xiu Tian and Kanglin Ba. Traceless phantom. Kanglin Ba's body flashed and disappeared. He had actually opened up a void tunnel from Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave abode and escaped in an instant. Oh no, we can't let him spread the news. Otherwise, he'll be killed. Let's go. Bai Xian shouted when she saw Kanglin Ba escape. Her figure moved, and she wanted to chase after him. Don't worry, he can't escape. 1,000 dragons, his soul-chasing hand. Go after him. Chu Fumian snorted. A wave of spiritual energy condensed in front of him and turned into a dragon claw. It rushed into the void. Kanglin Ba was overjoyed when he escaped into the void. When he thought about how Chu Fumian would be hunted down by countless experts as long as he leaked the news, his heart was filled with excitement. But his excitement didn't last long. Kanglin Ba's body suddenly stopped in the void. A huge dragon claw grabbed him. It pulled him back from the void. What kind of martial technique is this? I've already escaped into the void, but I was caught and brought back. Kanglin Ba couldn't believe it when he saw Chu Fumian's familiar face. He had taken advantage of Chu Fumian's carelessness to escape into the void. He should have completely escaped into the heavens. But now, he was caught by Chu Fumian again. All his tricks were like child's play in front of Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian looked at Kanglin Ba and snorted. I said that none of you will live today. Die, all of you. No, I'm from the Kanglin family. If you dare to kill me, the Kanglin family won't let you and me off. Kanglin Ba was about to die, but he still wanted to threaten Chu Fumian. You talk too much. Die. Chu Fengmian didn't wait for Kanglin Ba to finish. He waved his hand, and a wave of spiritual energy pressed down on Kanglin Ba's body. The Kanglin Hegemon's body also exploded under a burst of spiritual energy, and the blood and qi within were all devoured by Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian even dared to kill people from the desolate ancient sect. Kanglin Ba was nothing to him. And you, Kunyo Tian, you must die too. After killing Kanglin Ba, Chu Fengmian looked at Kunyo Tian. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and Kunyo Tian's body exploded like Kanglin Ba. Luo Zhanhen, Kunyo Tian, Kanglin Ba, and War Demon Honorable were all killed by Chu Fengmian. Chapter 540. The blood qi of Kugu Tian, Kanglin Ba, and War Demon Reverend were all devoured by Chu Fengmian. The three of them did not only possess the blood qi, but also the countless treasures they had obtained from the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor Cave. Although they had devoured these treasures, they did not have the time to refine them completely. Now, the spiritual energy in them was all given to Chu Fengmian. Refine them all. Chu Fengmian activated the power of Battle Dragon skill, refining the spiritual energy in them and condensing it into ancient Battle Dragon blood essence. The Battle Dragon skill that Chu Fengmian cultivated was a glutton, but with enough spiritual energy, he could quickly break through before he reached a bottleneck. Now that Chu Fengmian had devoured and refined the blood qi of the three of them, Chu Fengmian's strength immediately improved. However, it was still far from enough for Chu Fengmian to improve his realm further. If I want to improve my realm further, I have to devour at least 10 more martial artists like Luo Zhanhen. Chu Fengmian sighed in his heart. Without enough fortuitous encounters, it would be extremely difficult for him to cultivate the Battle Dragon skill. It's extremely difficult to break through my realm, but there's another item that can improve my strength. Chu Fengmian scanned his surroundings before his gaze landed on the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian moved and flew towards the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. What is he doing? Is he going to take the heaven-grade spiritual weapon? Some of the martial artists in the North region were shocked by Chu Fengmian's continuous display of power. Seeing what Chu Fengmian was going to do next, they stepped back and did not dare to step forward. The restriction on the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was far stronger than the restriction on all the treasures in the secret chamber. Once touched, there was a high chance that one would suffer a backlash. Chu Fengmian moved and instantly came before the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Without hesitation, he activated the power of Battle Dragon skill to the extreme. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's right arm turned into a dragon claw and grabbed at the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Take it. I am a battle dragon. This ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword is compatible with my bloodline. Chu Fengmian let out a long roar and unleashed the battle dragon aura on his body to the extreme. The restrictions on the ancestral Dragon Paragon sword gradually dissipated after sensing the aura of the War Dragon, allowing Chu Fengmian to grab the ancestral Dragon Paragon sword. All right. It was only when Chu Fengmian held the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in his hand that he could truly feel how powerful the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was. The power of a heaven-class spiritual weapon was dozens of times stronger than a supreme-grade Earth-class spiritual weapon. Moreover, the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was the ultimate treasure of the Dragon Clan. Even among the heaven-grade spiritual artifacts, they were considered to be of the highest quality. As he held the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in his hand, Chu Fengmian could feel that the power of the ancient War Dragon bloodline in his body had been completely stimulated. As the two forces intertwined, the aura of Chu Fengmian's body expanded continuously. Great! The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword is indeed the ultimate treasure of the Dragon Clan. The power on it is completely compatible with my bloodline. An ordinary martial artist who obtains the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword can only unleash 1/10 of its power. However, I possess the Battle Dragon bloodline, and I can unleash all of its power. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was definitely the most suitable spiritual weapon for Chu Fengmian. Oh no, this person has obtained the Heaven-class spiritual weapon. What a powerful force. Heaven-class spiritual weapon. If I can obtain it, it will be enough to increase my strength by more than one level. Some of the North region martial artists looked at the ancestral dragon's supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand with jealousy in their eyes. Kill. We must obtain the heaven-class spiritual weapon. Kill him. Yes. As long as we can kill him and obtain the heaven-class spiritual weapon, we will be invincible when we get out. I don't believe that this person is really invincible. With so many of us, we will definitely be able to kill him. Just as Chu Fengmian broke the restriction and obtained the ancestral dragon supreme sword, countless spiritual energies began to gather outside the sword. The 100 North region martial artists at the scene attacked almost simultaneously. In an instant, hundreds of martial techniques were launched in the air, and all of them were directed at Chu Fengmian. In an instant, the countless spiritual forces had merged into one and turned into a vast ray of light that rushed toward Chu Fengmian directly. The ray of light contained the martial techniques of 100 peak saints. Oh no! Chu Fengmian looked slightly nervous. The strength of the vast ray of light was much stronger than when Luo Zhanhen and the other three joined forces. Although the strength of each of these martial artists was not as strong as Luo Zhanhen and the others, there were many of them. Many ants could kill an elephant. In front of the treasure, these people had already disregarded everything. They wanted to kill Chu Fengmian even if they had to join forces to obtain the ancestral dragon supreme sword. The power that erupted was not to be underestimated. Courting death. The murderous intent in Chu Fengmian's eyes was extremely strong. These people wanted to take advantage of the chaos to rob. If Chu Fengmian had not intervened previously, they would not have been able to obtain any treasure. Now, they had come to deal with Chu Fengmian. It seems that all of you are going to die. Chu Fengmian roared and made a prompt decision. The spiritual forces in his body had already erupted to the extreme. These people's actions had completely infuriated Chu Fengmian. Boom! Surging spiritual forces suddenly erupted from Chu Fengmian's body, and a huge force swept across the entire secret chamber. Don't be afraid. No matter how strong this person is, can he withstand the combined strength of so many of us? A North region martial artist raised his head and looked at Chu Fengmian and shouted loudly, "Boy, hand over all the treasures that you have obtained from the secret chamber, and we can let you leave unharmed. Otherwise, with so many of us joining forces today, it is impossible for you to leave alive." That's right, Chu Fengmian. You are too greedy. Another North region martial artist stood out and said coldly to Chu Fengmian, "The treasures in the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave abode are not for you alone. Hand over the treasures." Hand over the treasures? Greedy? When Chu Fengmian heard these words, the murderous intent in his heart had already reached its peak. These treasures were obtained by each of us. If it wasn't for me, who else could have entered this secret chamber? Now you want to bite back and force me to hand over the treasures. I can kill Luo Zhanhen and the other desolate ancient sect disciples. Do you think that the combined strength of ants like you is enough to defeat me? I didn't update yesterday. I will update everything today. Don't worry. There was no reason why I didn't update yesterday. Originally, Xiaoyu had returned home at around 8 o'clock in the evening and felt very sleepy. She wanted to sleep for a while before writing. However, she didn't expect to sleep until this morning. Therefore, she didn't even explain and let everyone wait in vain. I'm sorry. I would like to apologize to everyone here. Up until now, this book had only not been updated yesterday. Even when she went out for a vacation, she tried her best to update it. Yesterday, I didn't update 4 times. Next, I will update 8 times. I won't be able to finish it in one day. I will update as much as possible in the next few days. Chapter 541. Chu Fengmian's heart was filled with murderous intent. If it wasn't for him, the treasures would have been taken away by the sect of the Barren Ancient Sect. These people were still greedy and wanted to join forces to threaten Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian were to be threatened, he wouldn't be Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and the ancient god of slaughter appeared behind him. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's murderous intent appeared. Damn it, this guy wants to take all the treasures for himself. No, After we leave the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave mansion, we must leak the news of him killing the sect of the Barren Ancient Sect and let them find trouble with him. In the crowd, many of the northern region martial artists shouted crazily. They were already plotting how to deal with Chu Fengmian. Yes, let's spread the news to the Earth Demon Sect, North Sea Academy, and Kanglan family. Let all the forces in the northern region deal with this guy. Some of the martial artists shouted crazily. Chu Fengmian's rise had made them jealous. They couldn't wait to get all the forces to besiege and kill Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's face was extremely gloomy. These words had violated the taboo in Chu Fengmian's heart. If they were to really leave and spread the news, it would indeed bring endless trouble to Chu Fengmian. Courting death. You still want to leave? Today, none of you will leave here alive. Chu Fengmian said word by word. Every word was filled with murderous intent. He wasn't threatening them. Chu Fengmian was never one to make empty threats. Since he said it, he would naturally do it. Bam! As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Fengmian's body moved. All the power of the ancient war dragon's blood essence in his body condensed into a single point. Chu Fengmian threw out a palm in the air. Countless dragon power condensed in the air and turned into a huge war dragon claw that slammed down. Don't be afraid. There are so many of us. I don't believe that he can deal with all of us alone. A northern region martial artist shouted loudly. Everyone, gather your spiritual energy and set up an array to deal with this guy. All right. The cultivators at the scene immediately unleashed their spiritual force, forming a huge formation in the air. It was trying to resist Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw. A bunch of ants want to fight against a true dragon? Chu Fengmian let out a long howl, no longer caring about anything else. The power of the war dragon spell, the power of the ancient god of massacre, and the power of creation contained in the sword embryo in his body were all condensed together. Boom, boom, boom. It could be said that Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was fully displayed in an instant. There was no limit to this spiritual power. It poured into Chu Fengmian's body like a flood. The battle dragon claw condensed by Chu Fengmian completely changed its appearance under this wave of spiritual energy. On the dragon scales of the battle dragon claw, there were strange patterns engraved on each scale. These strange patterns vaguely contained the power of creation. When the claw landed, it was enough to mobilize the power of the world. The power of the world was extremely strong. The power of creation was the essence of the world. The battle dragon claw fell from the sky, tearing the surrounding space apart, especially in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling. The power of the forbidding aura that Dragon Monarch Yan had left behind was redirected by the power of the battle dragon bloodline, allowing him to use it. Destroy. The huge battle dragon claw fell from the sky. The formation formed by the cultivators of the North region started to break under the attack of the claw. It was unknown just how many of the seals within were broken, and the entire formation was starting to break apart. How is this possible? There are so many of us, but we are still no match for him. The cultivators of the North region were extremely shocked. They were no match for Chu Fengmian even if they joined forces. This great formation was actually about to be broken. Crack! There was a crisp sound. The formation was full of cracks and finally broke through one of the critical points. The entire formation collapsed in an instant. Countless warriors were sent flying by the impact. Run! Let's spread the news. Yes, we must not let him off. Countless rays of light flew around, trying to break out of the secret chamber and escape. They wanted to spread the news and get more people to deal with Chu Fengmian. They could not get the heaven-grade spiritual weapon today, and they did not want Chu Fengmian to get it. Do you think any of you can escape today? Chu Fengmian held the ancestral dragon's supreme sword and sneered. The sword intent on his body suddenly burst out. The sword intent was like a huge river behind him. Chu Fengmian stood in the middle of the sword intent. The ancestral dragon's supreme sword has not seen blood for 10,000 years. Today, I will use your blood to awaken its power. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. World Transformation Sword. Chu Fengmian's sword moved as he spoke. The moment his sword was about to fall, The surrounding space was filled with endless sword chi. The entire secret chamber was filled with endless sword chi. 10,000 sword chi, 100,000 sword chi, 1,000,000 sword chi. No one could count how many sword chi there were in the secret chamber. The sword chi carried terrifying dragon power and turned into the appearance of ancient battle dragons. Opening its bloody mouth, it was unknown how many martial artists it had swallowed in an instant. Almost instantly, the countless northern region martial artists in the secret chamber exploded and were devoured by the sword chi. All the blood chi and spiritual energy were absorbed by Chu Fengmian and turned into his strength. Great! Another 1,000 drops of ancient battle dragon's blood essence. My strength has improved again. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. Each of these cultivators had many treasures from Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode. These treasures were all devoured by Chu Fengmian and turned into the purest spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's body. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's strength skyrocketed again. Although he had not broken through, he had reached the peak of divine power realm. Bang! At this moment, a loud sound suddenly rang out. At the end of the secret chamber, a figure suddenly appeared. The moment the figure appeared, Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian's faces changed completely. Undying Demon Venerable? Bai Xian looked at the figure and was shocked. Chapter 542. Just as Chu Fengmian obtained the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and killed everyone, Undying Demon Venerable's figure suddenly appeared in the secret chamber. What a powerful aura! This Undying Demon Venerable's strength far surpasses mine. Even if I made a breakthrough, I'm still far from being his match. High-level life and death experts are indeed not on the same level. Chu Fengmian sized up Undying Demon Venerable. He was also intimidated by the latter's strength. Although Chu Fengmian had seen Undying Demon Venerable once before, they were still very far apart at that time. Right now, Chu Fengmian and Undying Demon Venerable were only 10 kilometers apart in this secret chamber. To martial artists like them, 10 kilometers was a matter of a breath's time. It was extremely close. The spiritual energy of a heaven-grade spiritual tool. There's a heaven-grade spiritual tool in this secret chamber. The moment Undying Demon Venerable appeared, his face lit up with joy. This should be one of Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's treasures. The heaven-grade spiritual tool has already been taken. Undying Demon Venerable's eyes sized up the surroundings. Suddenly, he looked at the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. This is the heaven-grade spiritual tool, Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Undying Demon Venerable's eyes revealed some shock. The Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was a famous treasure of the ancient dragon clan. Back then, the owner of the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was Dragon Emperor Yin Gu. After Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's death, the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword disappeared without a trace. It was rumored that the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword disappeared together with Dragon Emperor Yin Gu. Now, Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's cave had appeared. When Undying Demon Venerable saw the heaven-grade spiritual tool in Chu Fengmian's hand, he immediately recognized it. The sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was the supreme treasure of the ancient dragon clan, the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Kid, give me the sword. Undying Demon Venerable looked at Chu Fengmian and immediately made his move. His figure was incomparably huge, dozens of meters tall. His huge arm moved, and his palm suddenly grabbed at Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian felt the space around him being sealed. This space squeezed Chu Fengmian, wanting to grab him. That grab was merely a casual grab. Yet Chu Fengmian could sense that he was currently in an extremely dangerous situation. If the Undying Demon Venerable really wanted to kill Chu Fengmian, he wouldn't need to spend much effort. Chu Fengmian would die without a doubt. Even if Chu Fengmian used all his means, he still wouldn't be a match for the Undying Demon Venerable. I didn't expect to meet this old devil. Chu Fengmian cursed inwardly. The person Chu Fengmian was most worried about meeting in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode was the Undying Demon Ancestor. If a 5th level life and death expert came, Chu Fengmian might be able to put up a fight or even find an opportunity to kill him. However, once he met a 6th-level life and death realm expert, his strength would be on a completely different level from ordinary life and death realm experts. At the very least, Chu Fengyan would have a hard time contending with the undying demon venerable, let alone defeating him. Even escaping from him would not be easy. Go! Facing the grab, Chu Fengyan's figure suddenly moved, turning into a streak of light. Fanabody art was pushed to the extreme. Now that Chu Fengyan had obtained the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, he absolutely couldn't let it fall into the hands of the undying demon venerable. His figure suddenly turned into countless streaks of light. Streaks of shadows turned into streaks of light to confuse the undying demon venerable. As for Chu Fengyan's main body, he directly flew towards the depths of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode. If he flew out now, he would most likely be chased by the undying demon venerable. Only by entering the depths of the cave abode would he have a chance of survival. Want to escape? A divine force realm, Ant wants to escape from this old man's hands? Overflowing demonic intent, demonic world descends. The undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengyan's streaks of light and snorted coldly. Endless demonic will gushed out from his body. The demonic will turn into countless barriers, filling the entire secret chamber with demonic will. The demonic intents within it turned into walls made of white bones, sealing off Chu Fengyan's movements. The undying demon venerable strength had reached the high level of life and death realm. He was a big shot in Earth Demon Sect, a famous expert even in the North region. His means were extremely powerful. A single move was enough to change the surrounding space. This move destroyed all the chances of survival in front of Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan felt a chill in his heart. This was the closest he had ever been to death. What should we do? Bai Xian's face was extremely pale. She didn't expect the undying demon venerable to appear here and hunt them down. Of course we have to escape. Chu Fengyan's face was extremely calm. The panic in his heart was forcibly suppressed. The more dangerous the situation was, the more Chu Fengyan couldn't panic. Once he panicked, he would lose his footing. I'll break the seal in a while. You run outside. This old fiend wants the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. He won't chase you. Chu Fengyan looked at Bai Xian and said, Let's go, rumble. The spiritual power in Chu Fengyan's body burned crazily. The power of the ancient battle dragon bloodline in his body was pushed to the extreme. His body immediately turned into a gigantic primordial war dragon. Battle Dragon Sword Dance. The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword in his hand suddenly appeared in the ancient battle dragon's hand. The true ancestral dragon sword art was the supreme sword art created by Dragon Emperor Yengu. Roar! Countless dragon roars resounded in the surrounding space. Chu Fengyan glanced over and saw that there were many true dragon ancestor spirits. These true dragons had followed Dragon Emperor Yengu and perished in this cave abode. They had been resting peacefully in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave abode. Now that they felt the battle dragon power in Chu Fengyan, these true dragon ancestor spirits woke up one after another. They roared as if they were responding to Chu Fengyan. The response caused Chu Fengyan's aura to rise steadily. Good. There are still true dragon ancestor spirits left in this Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. Although these true dragon ancestor spirits don't have even 1% of their strength when they were alive, they're still incomparably powerful. They're not below the 3rd or 4th level of life and death realm. Seeing these true dragon ancestor spirits, Chu Fengyan was overjoyed. These true dragon ancestor spirits were the best way for Chu Fengyan to break the seal of the undying demon ancestor. True dragon ancestors, I'm in danger. I need your help to deal with this old fiend. Chu Fengyan shouted loudly. He was speaking in the ancient dragon language. In addition to his aura, he was no different from a weak dragon that was being hunted down. Chapter 543. Try to use the power of the true dragon ancestral spirits to fight against me. You have the dragon clan's bloodline. You kill Baigu? Seeing Chu Fengyan's action, the undying demon reverend's face was filled with killing intent. The demonic will in his body also rose crazily. This was the real power of the undying demon reverend. His disciple, Prince Baigu, was killed by this dragon clan's martial technique. Now that he saw Chu Fengyan, he immediately recognized that Chu Fengyan was the one who killed Prince Baigu. Damn, brat, you did it. Well, since I've met you today, I'll use your blood essence to pay tribute to my disciple. The undying demon reverend shouted angrily. The demonic will in his body began to merge with his body. His cultivation realm had reached the level where he could transform into a demon. In his anger, he suddenly turned into a huge demonic creature. It was as if a demon god was enraged. The surrounding space began to tremble. Brat, how dare you kill my disciple? Today, I'll capture you alive and bring you back to the Earth Demon sect. I'll make you suffer. The undying demon reverend suddenly threw a palm at Chu Fengyan. When the palm was thrown out, the monstrous demonic will swept across the entire secret chamber. Countless demonic wills poured into Chu Fengyan's body, trying to completely demonize Chu Fengyan's body and take control of it. The demonic will poured into Chu Fengyan's body from all directions like a flood. No matter how hard Chu Fengyan tried to resist, he could not resist the demonic will completely. These demonic wills invaded Chu Fengyan's body and even attempted to occupy his bloodline, completely controlling him. Damn it! Battle Dragon Strength. Resist the demonic will. Chu Fengyan shouted loudly. The ancient Battle Dragon's blood essence was pushed to the extreme, and all the Battle Dragon Strength emerged. The Battle Dragon Strength was indeed able to restrain countless evil spirits. However, the strength of the undying demon reverend was too strong. His demonic will was simply endless. Chu Fengyan's blood essence was a part of it, and his body was being eroded by the demonic will. The demonic will made it impossible for Chu Fengyan to escape. He couldn't even escape. If this continued, Chu Fengyan's bloodline would be taken over by the devil will sooner or later. At that time, he would truly become the undying devil sovereign slave. Invincible Battle Dragon. Chu Fengyan gritted his teeth and unleashed all the power in his body. The power of creation in his sword embryo filled his body and forcefully resisted the erosion of the demonic will. What kind of power is this? It was simply more powerful than any other power. Could it be a creation? The power of fortune is the power of heaven and earth. How can it be controlled by a single person? Undying demon, venerable, sized up Chu Fengyan and saw the power of creation appear around Chu Fengyan to resist the surrounding demonic will. This power was much stronger than any power the undying demon venerable had ever seen. It was simply not on the same level. The power in Chu Fengyan's body was enough to surpass all power in the world. Only the power of creation in heaven and earth could achieve this. The power of creation is actually controlled by you. No wonder you could kill Whitebone. Your fortuitous encounters are simply shocking. The power of creation. Anyone who can obtain this power is almost an invincible existence in heaven and earth. You have countless fortuitous encounters. Your bloodline isn't an ordinary dragon bloodline. It even possesses the power of creation. Good. Sure enough, it's an opportunity bestowed to me by the heavens. I'll kill you. After seizing your power bloodline, my strength will be able to take another step forward. I might even be able to step into the legendary life and death heavenly realm. Undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengyan. At first, he was shocked, but then he became overjoyed. Your realm is still too low. If your realm is enough to reach the life and death realm, you can take out any of your fortuitous encounters to contend with me. Unfortunately, your strength is simply unable to display all of your fortuitous encounters. Demonic will erosion. Be eroded by the demonic will. I'll take you to a secret place and carefully take away all of your fortuitous encounters. As undying demon venerable spoke, the pressure of the demonic will become even more terrifying. The billowing demonic will washed over Chu Fengyan's body. More than half of his body had already been eroded by the demonic will. Only Chu Fengyan's bloodline was still stubbornly holding on. Once his bloodline was eroded, Chu Fengyan would be thoroughly finished. Roar. At the most dangerous moment, a dragon roar could be heard all of a sudden. The moment this dragon roar resounded, Chu Fengyan felt that the demonic will on his body was swept away. A true dragon ancestor soul suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengyan and dissolved all of the spiritual energy on his body. Roar! Roar! Another dragon roar resounded. A total of 7 dragon roars resounded. A total of 7 true dragon ancestor souls were awakened. They came to Chu Fengyan's side and fused into his body. Suddenly, Chu Fengyan's body was filled with endless spiritual energy. The ancient battle dragon's phantom inside his body condensed 1,000 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence. Chu Fengyan's realm instantly broke through. Great! The true dragon ancestor souls are indeed helping me. Although these true dragon ancestor souls have already fallen, they will provide all of their remaining strength when they see their own kind being hunted down. Chu Fengyan was overjoyed. The dragon tribe was indeed very united. Even in death, they still wanted to make a final contribution. With the support of the true dragon ancestor souls, Chu Fengyan's strength suddenly skyrocketed. Break for me! The ancestral dragon, supreme sword in his hand, was suddenly awakened. The sword will and dragon force in it were all integrated into Chu Fengyan's body. Sword art of massacre. Behind Chu Fengyan, all of the killing intent in the ancient god of massacre's phantom was integrated into the blade. Suddenly, it slashed at the demonic will around him. Rumble! A series of explosions were heard all of a sudden. A gap suddenly appeared in the seal formed by the boundless demonic intent in the surroundings with this sword strike. Humph! True dragon ancestor souls, a bunch of guys who have been dead for tens of thousands of years, still want to stop me. Destroy all of them. So what if you have the support of strength? Today, no matter who is helping you, you will still die. The immortal demon Venerable made a prompt decision and flew towards Chu Fengyan. He struck out a palm in the air. This palm was no longer demonic will, but extremely terrifying strength. The immortal demon Venerable had already decided to kill Chu Fengyan instead of capturing him alive. A genius like Chu Fengyan was too terrifying. Moreover, Chu Fengyan had the most terrifying creation power in the world. Even if the immortal demon Venerable couldn't obtain it today, he had to kill Chu Fengyan to prevent future troubles. Chapter 544. The undying demon ancestor struck out with his palm. The power contained in it was several times stronger than before. The undying demon exalted had unleashed that palm strike with the intention of killing Chu Fengyan. The undying demon Venerable, who was filled with killing intent, was many times more terrifying than before. Chu Fengyan could feel the power of the palm. He knew that even with the help of the true dragon ancestor spirits, he would still die if he took the attack head-on. Phantom, invisible and formless. Chu Fengyan moved his feet and pushed the phantom body technique to the extreme. His strength increased once again as he comprehended the latest level of the phantom body technique, invisible and formless. His body suddenly disappeared and appeared at the exit of the secret chamber in the next moment under the undying demon ancestor's surprised gaze. He then left the secret chamber in a flash. Trying to escape? Don't even think about it. No one can escape from my palm. The undying demon ancestor roared loudly as his demonic will swept out. He chased after Chu Fengyan and left the secret chamber. Chu Fengyan left the secret chamber and flew towards the deepest part of the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling, following the guidance of his bloodline. The closer he got to the deepest part of the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling, the stronger the restrictions became. Chu Fengyan wanted to escape from the undying demon ancestor. He had to rely on the strength of the restrictions in the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling. Chu Fengyan could easily pass through the restrictions and delay the undying demon ancestor. Chu Fengyan unleashed his full strength along the way without hiding anything. Instead, his battle dragon aura burst out and filled the entire ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling. There were definitely more true dragon ancestral spirits slumbering in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode than the 7. as long as Chu Fengyan could awaken more true dragon ancestral spirits, he would be able to gain more power to help him. Moreover, the closer he got to the deepest part of the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling, the more Chu Fengyan felt that the real treasures in the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling were extraordinary. If he could get it, Chu Fengyan's strength would have a qualitative leap. Chu Fengyan felt that if he could get the treasures, he might be able to fight the undying demon ancestor. Chu Fengyan passed through countless restrictions and rushed into the depths of the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling. There was no obstruction along the way. With Chu Fengyan's speed, he could cross dozens of kilometers in an instant. However, the enormous demonic intent behind Chu Fengyan was not shaken off in the slightest. Instead, it was getting closer and closer. The demon ancestor had no intention of letting Chu Fengyan go. Just as Chu Fengyan was flying towards the depths of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling, he was also hot on his heels. The restrictions along the way were fatal to many cultivators, but for a big shot like Undying Demon Venerable, they were far from being able to stop him. Demon Ancestors was Demon Ancestor Spirit. In just 3 breaths' time, the immortal Demon Venerable had caught up. Damn it, the Undying Demon is to kill to his full ancestor. To kill. Demon. As ancestor killing was to kill. Demon to kill. To demon was to kill. Demon on. Was. On. Was. The Undying Demon Venerable ignored the countless restrictive spells and barged into Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's cave abode. Kid, let's see where you can run to. A 7-floored pagoda suddenly appeared in the Undying Demon Ancestor's hand and fell on Chu Fengyan. The pagoda was engraved with countless demons. Some of them were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they rushed into the sky, as if to challenge heaven's will. Demon Shrouding Pagoda? Chu Fengyan looked at the pagoda and exclaimed. The pagoda was engraved with the Demon Shrouding Pagoda. It was personally drawn by the ancient Demon Emperor, the strongest of the 9 regions' demon path. The ancient Demon Emperor's greatest treasure was the Demon Shrouding Pagoda. He had made this treasure to challenge heaven's will and overturn the heavenly Tao. Although he had failed in the end, the Demon Shrouding Pagoda had the power to shroud the heavens. It was a terrifying spiritual weapon. This pagoda was a replica of the Demon Shrouding Pagoda. The real Demon Shrouding Pagoda was an extreme immortal weapon. It was not inferior to the mortal Emperor Jar. The 7-floored pagoda in front of Chu Fengyan was only an Earth-grade spiritual weapon. Although it was an Earth-grade spiritual weapon, it was infinitely close to a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon. It contained the true power of the Demon Shrouding Pagoda. It was only a step away from a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon like the abundant lush steel. The pagoda was going to suppress Chu Fengyan at the bottom of the pagoda. Abundant lush steel. Go! A palm-sized stone steel suddenly appeared in Chu Fengyan's hand. It grew to dozens of meters in size in an instant and slammed into the pagoda. Bang! The resulting spiritual power caused the entire area to tremble, and the 7-story pagoda was sent flying by the richly lush tombstone. Although the pagoda was infinitely close to a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon, it was still lacking compared to a true Heaven-grade spiritual weapon. A Heaven-grade spiritual weapon? You have a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon? Undying Demon Venerable looked at the abundant lush steel in Chu Fengyan's hand, his heart going crazy with jealousy. He was a big shot of the Earth Demon sect, a high-level life and death expert. Yet, he only had a Demon Shrouding Pagoda replica that was infinitely close to a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon. It was already the strongest spiritual weapon he had. But now, Chu Fengyan had another Heaven-grade spiritual weapon apart from the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. How could he not be jealous? So what if you have a Heaven-grade spiritual weapon? If you're not strong enough, then all external weapons are useless. You still want to resist. Heavenly Demon Cage. Come out. Undying Demon Venerable grabbed with his hand. Boundless demonic will gathered around Chu Fengyan and condensed into a cage, trapping Chu Fengyan within. Seal. The appearance of the cage was meant to completely seal Chu Fengyan, making it impossible for him to escape. Damn it! This undying demon venerable is too strong. If he wants to kill me, it'll be a piece of cake. But he still wants to capture me alive. This is my chance. Chu Fengyan was clear about the situation in front of him. If undying demon venerable really wanted to kill him, he would have killed him with a single palm. He wouldn't have used the pagoda to condense a cage to seal Chu Fengyan. Undying demon venerable wanted to capture Chu Fengyan alive, which gave Chu Fengyan a chance. Roar! A dragon roar resounded from Chu Fengyan's mouth, spreading through the surrounding space. Roar! 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 Suddenly, countless dragon roars resounded in the surroundings. A total of over a dozen dragon roars resounded in the surroundings. Chapter 545. Roar. Countless dragon roars resounded in Dragon Emperor Yan's abode. Under Chu Fengyan's dragon roar, more true dragon ancestral spirits were awakened. Sensing Chu Fengyan's danger, they immediately flew over to help him. Who knew how many dragon spirits were buried in Dragon Emperor Yan's abode? Once upon a time, Dragon Emperor Yan Gu was the strongest being within the dragon race. He had countless followers. Now that he had fallen, his followers had disappeared as well. From the looks of it, all of them must have fallen within the cave of Dragon Emperor Yan Gu. Huge true dragon ancestral spirits flew over and charged at undying demon venerable. Chu Feng Mian's battle dragon bloodline was activated, causing these true dragon ancestor spirits to think that Chu Feng Mian was a real dragon. Now that they saw undying devil venerable chasing after Chu Feng Mian, they all attacked him. Damn true dragon ancestral spirits. A bunch of guys who have been dead for tens of thousands of years. Die obediently. How dare you resist this old man? Break from me. Undying demon venerable roared. Today, even if Dragon Emperor Yan's ancestral spirits appear, I'll kill you. If I want to kill someone, no one can escape. Undying demon venerable waved his hand, and a vast spiritual power bombarded a few true dragon ancestral spirits, shattering them on the spot. These true dragon ancestral spirits were only at the 3rd or 4th level of life and death realm. They were far from being undying demon venerable's match. Die for me. Undying demon venerable grabbed one of the true dragon ancestral spirits and crushed it on the spot. Kid, don't struggle anymore. I'll suppress you and take everything from you. Undying demon venerable waved his hand and grabbed at Chu Fengyan. Suppress. I'll never be suppressed by anyone. Undefeated battle dragon, dragon spirit unyielding. Doomsday, rising dragon. Chu Fengyan shouted, and Doomsday aura rose. The countless true dragon ancestral spirits in front of him also sensed this aura, and they all roared tragically. Then, countless true dragon ancestral spirits soared into the sky. Doomsday, rising dragon. Countless true dragon ancestral spirits would rather die than submit in front of undying demon venerable. They gathered all their strength and displayed the most terrifying move of the dragon race. A single true dragon ancestral spirit's Doomsday, rising dragon, might not be able to resist undying demon venerable. However, all the ancestral dragon true spirits gathered their spiritual energy and let out solemn dragon roars. Roar, roar, roar. More than a dozen true dragon ancestral spirits roared at the same time and attacked undying demon venerable. This Doomsday, rising dragon, looked like the end of the world. Destructive Doomsday spiritual energy erupted as the Doomsday dragons unleashed by the dozen true dragon ancestral spirits slammed into the undying demon sovereign. Finally, countless cracks appeared on the undying demon venerable's body, and drops of black blood flowed out from them. The undying demon sovereign was finally injured. He couldn't withstand the Doomsday dragon unleashed by more than a dozen true dragon ancestral spirits. Damn, these damn dragon spirits actually injured me. Undying demon venerable roared crazily. He was a real big shot, the supreme demon venerable of the Earth Demon sect. But now, he was hurt by some dragon spirits that had been dead for tens of thousands of years. Boy, these true dragon ancestral spirits are dead. Let's see what other tricks you have this time. Stop struggling. All your struggles will only make you feel more pain. Undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengmian with anger. In order to deal with the divine power realm ant, he had chased after him for so long and paid such a huge price. The culprit was Chu Fengmian. Do you think you can still resist? You have no chance to resist in front of me. Cage seal. Suppress. Undying demon venerable shouted coldly. Spiritual power gathered in his palm, and he clenched his fist. The cage around Chu Fengmian began to gather crazily, trying to seal Chu Fengmian in it. Danger. Every kind of danger. Chu Fengmian knew that if he was suppressed and fell into the hands of undying demon venerable, he would definitely die. Damn it, I'll fight it out with him. This place is not far from the real treasure of ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave dwelling. After I beat him back, I can rush in. Chu Fengmian's eyes showed some determination. Suddenly, a broken jar appeared in his palm. This broken jar was none other than the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian's final trump card was the Emperor Jar. As soon as the mortal Emperor Jar appeared, countless raging flames were ignited within it. With a thought, Chu Fengmian opened his empty ring, from which countless pills and rare items appeared and were tossed into the human Emperor Jar. Suddenly, the power of the Emperor Jar began to rise. It seemed to be catalyzed slightly. Some faint patterns appeared on the surface of the Emperor Jar. These patterns represented that Chu Fengmian had begun to activate the true power of the Emperor Jar. Not enough. Not enough. The Doomsday Dragon of more than a dozen true dragon ancestral spirits could only slightly injure undying demon venerable. Although the Emperor Jar was extremely powerful and could easily crush 10,000 peak saints, it was still not enough to face undying demon venerable. Endless spiritual stones. Burn them all. Chu Fengmian made a prompt decision. Without hesitation, he took out all the spiritual stones he had accumulated in his empty ring and threw them into the Emperor Jar. These spiritual stones were the king-grade spiritual stones that Chu Fengmian had condensed from the spiritual spring and the emperor-grade spiritual stones that he had obtained from ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave dwelling. Chu Fengmian decisively threw the priceless spiritual stones into the human Emperor Jar to squeeze out the spiritual power from them. At this moment of life and death, wealth was useless. If he could not escape from undying demon venerable today, it would be meaningless no matter how much wealth he had. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had obtained the ancestral dragon supreme sword today, which surpassed all his wealth. After burning countless spiritual stones, a complete pattern was finally formed on the Emperor Jar. Although only the broken parts were formed, it was enough to push the Emperor Jar's power to an extreme. What spiritual energy is this? An extreme path immortal weapon? How could this kid have such a legendary item? Undying demon venerable stared at the Emperor Jar, his eyes almost popping out. The spiritual energy on it even surpassed a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. This was a power that only the legendary extreme path immortal weapon possessed. Undying demon venerable panicked at first, but soon calmed down. So what if it's an extreme path immortal weapon? With your strength, you can only barely activate the power of an extreme path immortal weapon. Today you will die. 6 chapters today. I can't write anymore. I can only write as much as I can every day. I can't write too much in a day. Chapter 546. Myriad Demons, God, Sealing Technique. Suppress. 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 The undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengmian and slammed his palm down. The power contained in it was heavier than countless mountains, and it pressed down on Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian's head and limbs were suppressed by this great power, and he could not move. Under the power of the undying demon venerable, he suddenly turned into countless demons. Lone demon, ancient demon, oil demon, war demon. It was rumored that the thousands of demons from ancient times were all condensed. Each demon bared their fangs and brandished their claws, and they wanted to completely suppress Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's body could not move at all, and he could not even send out a trace of his spiritual consciousness. The situation was extremely critical. Once Chu Fengmian was suppressed, he could not use the power of the human emperor jar. Damn it, this old demon wants to completely suppress me. As long as my spiritual power is suppressed, I can't use all my opportunities. Chu Fengmian cursed in his heart. The undying demon venerable had already used all his strength to suppress Chu Fengmian. He had planned to use the power of the human emperor jar to force the undying demon venerable to retreat and then escape into the deepest part of the ancient Dragon Emperor cave mansion to obtain the opportunities inside. But now, the undying demon venerable was even more ferocious than Chu Fengmian had imagined. He wanted to suppress Chu Fengmian at all costs. Chu Fengmian's realm was far from the undying demon venerables. He was able to contend with the undying demon venerable because of Chu Fengmian's countless opportunities, bloodline, and spiritual weapons. But now, the undying demon venerable wanted to completely suppress Chu Fengmian's spiritual power. Once suppressed, Chu Fengmian's bloodline and spiritual weapons would be useless. At that time, Chu Fengmian would really be at the mercy of others. No, I can't be suppressed. I want to flatten the 7 sections. How can I die in the hands of this old demon? Battle Dragon Bloodline, the Tao of Slaughter, the power of creation. Let them all explode. Chu Fengmian roared crazily, and his spiritual power erupted. All his opportunities and potential were squeezed to the extreme. Waves of spiritual energy began to fight against the undying demon venerable's power in Chu Fengmian's body. Brat, you've had many fortuitous encounters. Unfortunately, you don't have the power to use the power of these fortuitous encounters. Without power, no matter how many fortuitous encounters you have, they're all useless. Undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengmian with jealousy. Chu Fengmian had obtained too many fortuitous encounters. The Dragon Bloodline, Heaven-grade spirit weapon, and now, even the legendary Extreme Tao immortal weapon had fallen into his hands. You will be suppressed by me. All of your fortuitous encounters will be mine. Brat, you don't have to struggle anymore. 10,000 demons united. Suppress. The undying demon venerable unleashed another burst of spiritual energy from his palm and pressed down. All of a sudden, the 10,000 demons also activated their supreme techniques to suppress Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's bloodline and power were completely suppressed. The current Chu Fengmian was simply unable to use the slightest bit of power. His Battle Dragon bloodline was completely suppressed. The power of the Battle Dragon technique was suppressed to the deepest part of Chu Fengmian's body. It was firmly suppressed and could not be shaken. Chu Fengmian's body no longer had any spiritual energy. The power of his bloodline had been completely suppressed. Only his consciousness was left. Suppress. The undying demon venerable roared and finally uttered a word. This word was to completely suppress and destroy Chu Fengmian's consciousness. Once his consciousness was destroyed, Chu Fengmian would completely fall. Natal Sword Origin. Creation Divine Sword. The moment the undying demon venerable suppressed with his supreme spiritual energy, Chu Fengmian finally used his final trump card in his body. The only thing in his body that had not been suppressed was his Natal Sword Origin. His Natal Sword Origin was condensed from the most powerful creation force in the world. No matter how powerful the undying demon venerable was, he could not suppress the creation force. Whoosh! A sword light suddenly flickered and appeared. This sword light did not resist the undying demon venerable's power. Instead, it turned into a ray of light and poured into the Emperor Jar. Immediately, the Emperor Jar's power began to stir. Chu Fengmian wanted to use the power of his Natal Sword Origin to forcibly activate the Emperor Jar. Right now, the only power that could contend against the undying demon venerable was the Emperor Jar. Tao of the human emperor, enlighten all living beings. The Emperor Jar's power finally reached its peak at this moment. The spiritual energy of the countless spiritual stones burning inside, was completely stimulated. Now that he had obtained another fragment of the Emperor Jar, its power was countless times stronger than when Chu Fengmian had first obtained it. Moreover, in order to activate the Emperor Jar's power, Chu Fengmian had burned all his wealth. With so many treasures converted into spiritual energy, even a high-level life and death expert would be stuffed to death. Now, all of them had been burned and turned into a single attack in the Emperor Jar. At this moment, the Emperor Jar's power that Chu Fengmian had displayed was the strongest power he had ever displayed in his life. The Emperor Jar soared into the sky and suddenly erupted with boundless spiritual energy. This surge of spiritual energy seemed to want to destroy everything around it. Damn it! The power of the extreme immortal weapon has been activated. Undying Demon Venerable's face was extremely pale. In an instant, he withdrew all his power and blocked in front of him, turning it into countless barriers to resist the power of the Emperor Jar. He knew the power of the Emperor Jar. It was enough to make him feel fear. An extreme Dao celestial weapon. Even if it was a broken extreme Dao celestial weapon, its power was still extremely terrifying. Rumble. The power condensed on the Emperor Jar finally erupted. It turned into a dense spiritual energy that swept everything in the surroundings. Endless explosions sounded one after another. In the next moment, the surrounding space turned silent. It seemed to be enough to completely obliterate everything in the world. The surging spiritual energy washed over everything in the surroundings as if it wanted to completely destroy everything. No matter how strong the power was, it couldn't resist the Emperor Jar. Let's go. Even Chu Fengmian's face changed abruptly. His figure moved and fled toward Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. With such power, even as the owner of the Emperor Jar, Chu Fengmian would die without a doubt if he was caught in it. His figure flickered again and again as he pushed his speed to the limit. He broke through countless restrictions and entered the depths of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave amidst the explosions. Chapter 547. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered again and again, pushing his speed to the limit. It was as if he was racing against death. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had the Battle Dragon bloodline, so none of the restrictions in ancient Yin Dragon Emperor's cave could stop him. Otherwise, Chu Fengmian would have been killed by the power of the Emperor Jar. I wonder if Undying Demon Venerable can withstand such a bombardment. With the power of the Emperor Jar, even a high-level life and death expert would die. But Undying Demon Venerable doesn't seem like an ordinary high-level life and death expert, especially since he's known as Undying. His vitality is tyrannical to the extreme. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly as he observed the situation behind him. Amidst the explosions, an incomparably huge figure suddenly charged out from the countless explosions. This figure was covered in countless wounds. His skin was cracked, and his whole body was covered in blood. He was simply a blood man. Little bastard, I want you dead. I'm known as Undying. I'll never die. A crazy roar resounded. This figure turned into a streak of light and chased after Chu Fengmian. Undying Demon Venerable. Under such bombardment, Undying Demon Venerable actually didn't die in front of the extremely condensed spiritual power of the Emperor Jar. The countless wounds on his body weren't fake. In front of such a terrifying power, even the Undying Demon Venerable was seriously injured. But even so, he didn't think of letting Chu Fengmian go. Instead, he ignored his injuries and rushed forward. His heart was burning with anger. He really wanted to kill Chu Fengmian regardless of the consequences. The anger in Undying Demon Venerable's heart couldn't be extinguished. In order to deal with a junior like Chu Fengmian, he had chased after Chu Fengmian countless times. And now, Chu Fengmian had escaped from his hands several times. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had used the power of the Emperor Jar to seriously injure him. With Undying Demon Venerable's identity, he actually paid such a high price to deal with a junior. It was simply a disgrace to him. Right now, Undying Demon Venerable couldn't wait to kill Chu Fengmian, eat his flesh, drink his blood, and burn his soul. Only then would his anger subside slightly. Die. The undying demon venerable turned into an extremely fast escape light and chased after Chu Fengmian, wanting to kill him completely. Along the way, he didn't even try to break the restrictions. Even if the restrictions hit him, he didn't care at all. He just wanted to catch Chu Fengmian again and kill him. Damn it, this old devil's strength is terrifying. With my current strength, I can't activate the Emperor Jar again. Apart from the power of the Emperor Jar, I can't fight him at all. Chu Fengmian cursed in his heart. At the same time, he flew towards the deepest part of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling. The undying demonic venerable was extremely difficult to deal with. Even the terrifying power of the Renhuang Jar was not enough to destroy him. Fortunately, when the Emperor Jar burst out its power, it bought Chu Fengmian a lot of time. Chu Fengmian was the first to escape, and now he could still put some distance between them. However, given the short distance between them, Chu Fengmian would most likely be caught within 5 seconds. Soon, the real treasure of the ancient Yin Dragon Monarch Cave is just ahead. Chu Fengmian could already feel the thirst of the Battle Dragon skill in his body. The thing that the Battle Dragon skill desired was just ahead. Chu Fengmian didn't know what the Battle Dragon skill desired in the ancient Yin Dragon Monarch Cave. However, Chu Fengmian could vaguely feel that as long as he could get it, he would have the ability to fight against the undying demonic venerable. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 streaks of light shuttled rapidly in the ancient Yin Dragon Monarch Cave. The countless restrictions in the ancient Yin Dragon Monarch Cave were completely ignored by the two. Chu Fengmian relied on the power of the ancient Battle Dragon bloodline to move freely. As for the undying demonic venerable, he broke through countless restrictions with pure strength. These restrictions wouldn't affect the undying demonic venerable at his peak. However, the undying demonic venerable was severely injured now. Forcefully resisting these restrictions would only worsen his injuries. The undying demonic venerable didn't care about his injuries anymore. Killing Chu Fengmian was all that was on his mind now. As long as he could kill Chu Fengmian and obtain Chu Fengmian's countless opportunities, he would be able to make up for all his losses. Brat, even if you run to the ends of the earth, you will still die today. The undying demonic venerable roared. His anger had reached its peak. If a pair of eyes could kill, Chu Fengmian would have been killed countless times by him. Come if you can catch up to me. Chu Fengmian turned around and sneered. He used all his strength to activate his escape technique. After passing through the last restriction, Chu Fengmian suddenly came to a very special space. In this space, it could be said that the sky was filled with blood mist, which contained countless fragrant fresh blood. What is this place? Chu Fengmian glanced around. He could feel that the thing that the Battle Dragon skill desired was in this space. Just as Chu Fengmian was still thinking, the undying demonic venerable had already caught up to him and rushed into this space. Die! As soon as the undying demonic venerable entered this space, he didn't hesitate to throw a palm strike at Chu Fengmian. This palm strike was not only meant to suppress Chu Fengmian, but also to kill him. So, facing the danger, Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and the ancestral dragon supreme sword appeared in his hand. All of a sudden, the countless runes on the ancestral dragon supreme sword seemed to have been awakened. Coming to this space, the ancestral dragon supreme sword seemed to have undergone some changes. When they were outside, the ancestral dragon supreme sword was like an expert in a deep slumber. Coming to this space, the ancestral dragon supreme sword was completely awakened. Dang! The ancestral dragon supreme sword burst out a burst of shocking sword light, completely blocking the power of the undying demonic venerable. This sword light wasn't Chu Fengmian's power, but the ancestral dragon supreme sword's own power. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's figure turned into a ray of light and flew into the space. The ancestral dragon supreme sword seemed to be guiding Chu Fengmian. Following the guidance of the ancestral dragon supreme sword, Chu Fengmian flew rapidly. Suddenly, an incomparably huge ocean appeared in front of him. It was an ocean that seemed to have no end. In this ocean, there wasn't seawater but blood. It was a blood sea formed by blood. Chapter 548. Chu Fengmian was also stunned by the scene before him. No one would have thought that the deepest part of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling, the center of this space, was actually a sea of blood. This sea of blood was so huge that Chu Fengmian couldn't see the end of it. There was actually such a huge sea of blood hidden in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling. This wasn't what shocked Chu Fengmian the most. What shocked Chu Fengmian the most was that Chu Fengmian could only feel the existence of one type of spiritual energy in this sea of blood. In other words, the sea of blood before them was formed from the blood of an expert. What kind of terrifying existence is this? Only his blood could form such a sea of blood. Chu Fengmian had read countless ancient books in his previous life, but he couldn't figure out who could condense blood into such a boundless sea of blood. Could this sea of blood be condensed from Dragon Emperor Yan's blood? Chu Fengmian suddenly thought of something that could do all this with the guidance of the ancestral dragon's supreme sword. Perhaps only Dragon Emperor Yan, who had once stood at the peak of the 9 regions, could create such a huge sea of blood after his death. The greatest treasure in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode was actually a sea of blood formed by his blood. I wonder how much pure spiritual energy is contained in this sea of blood. What kind of natural wonder is this? The dragon blood crystals are just condensed from the blood of some true dragon. This sea of blood is equivalent to the power of 1,000,000 or even 10 million dragon blood crystals. Looking at the sea of blood in front of him, Chu Fengmian felt as if he was looking at an incomparably huge treasure. No, this was simply a treasury. It was filled with endless treasures that were displayed in front of Chu Fengmian. Let's go. Chu Fengmian made a prompt decision and woke up instantly. No wonder he wanted the battling dragon duel so much. Chu Fengmian couldn't imagine how terrifying his spiritual energy would be if he devoured wantonly in this sea of blood. Chu Fengmian dived into the sea of blood in an instant. Immediately, the blood in the sea of blood surged towards Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian didn't hold back either. He opened his mouth wide and devoured the endless amount of blood. Every drop of blood here was purer than the essence blood of saints, or even the essence blood of life and death experts. The dragon power contained within was the most suitable power for Chu Fengmian. If a venerable cultivator came here, they might not be able to devour this sea of blood because the dragon force within it was simply too great. If an ordinary martial artist swallowed the blood, they would be affected by the dragon power and turn into a half-dragon, half-human monster. However, Chu Fengmian was different. Chu Fengmian cultivated the battle dragon art. The dragon force was simply Chu Fengmian's greatest tonic. In Chu Fengmian's body, the shadow of the ancient war dragon appeared directly behind Chu Fengmian. It opened its mouth in a frenzy and devoured the endless spiritual energy in the sea of blood. Like a hungry tiger, it rushed into a flock of sheep and began to devour the blood in a frenzy. Drops of ancient war dragon's blood essence condensed madly in Chu Fengmian's body. 100 drops, 200 drops, 300 drops. Almost at every moment, it was condensing madly. Chu Fengmian used almost all of his strength to devour the countless drops of blood and the spiritual energy in them. Boom! Chu Fengmian's power soon reached the critical point and broke through, reaching the 7th level of the divine power realm in a single leap. Moreover, the spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's body was still rising steadily. Great! As long as the battle dragon art doesn't encounter a bottleneck, as long as there is enough spiritual energy, I can break through without restraint. This sea of blood is simply my heaven. Devour. Devour everything. Chu Fengmian burst out with all of his strength and turned into an ancient war dragon. He opened his mouth and devoured countless drops of blood. The spiritual energy contained in the countless drops of blood was simply the purest spiritual energy in the world. It was comparable to the spiritual energy in the royal grade spirit stone. Refining it was extremely simple. There was no need to remove the impurities in it at all. It could all be converted into Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy. Boom! In the sky above the sea of blood, a loud noise suddenly sounded. The undying demon Venerable had finally caught up. The undying demon Venerable saw Chu Fengmian deep in the sea of blood. Although the Sea of Blood contained endless spiritual energy, it also contained a unique dragon power. The undying demon Venerable did not have the bloodline of the dragon clan, so he could not get close to the Sea of Blood. However, it was not a problem for the undying demon Venerable, who was a big shot of the Earth Demon sect. He suddenly reached out and grabbed Chu Fengyan, who was in the Sea of Blood. His grab had the power to move mountains and fill seas. He wanted to grab Chu Fengyan out of the endless Sea of Blood. Damn it, this old demon is here to make trouble again. Chu Fengyan was extremely angry. At this critical moment, the undying demon Venerable had caught up with him again. He was now condensing the essence blood of the ancient war dragon to improve his strength. Now that he was disturbed, he was extremely angry. However, Chu Fengyan also knew that his strength was not enough to compete with the undying demon Venerable. Even if the one who was seriously injured was not a demon Venerable, it was still extremely terrifying, unless Chu Fengyan's strength improved further. What Chu Fengyan needed now was to stall for time. The ancient war dragon's shadow was already in the Sea of Blood, continuously devouring the spiritual energy. As long as Chu Fengyan continued to devour the spiritual energy, he would be able to make another breakthrough in his cultivation realm. Abundant, lush monument. Chu Fengyan called out the abundant, lush monument and attacked, resisting the power of the undying demon Venerable. At the same time, Chu Fengyan was also continuously devouring the spiritual energy in the Sea of Blood. The more spiritual energy he devoured, the stronger Chu Fengyan became. As long as he could stall for time, Chu Fengyan's strength would improve further. Even if he was facing the undying demon Venerable, Chu Fengyan still had the strength to fight. Damn it, this kid has the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. He's continuously devouring the spiritual energy in the Sea of Blood. If I let him continue to devour, I won't be his match. The undying demon Venerable saw Chu Fengyan resisting and understood that Chu Fengyan was stalling for time. Now that Chu Fengyan was continuously devouring the spiritual energy in the Sea of Blood, his strength was increasing rapidly. If Chu Fengyan's strength were to increase further, he might not be Chu Fengyan's match. No, I'll go all out. Today, even if I have to burn my life force, I must kill this kid. The undying demon Venerable roared fiercely. His eyes were filled with a hint of madness. He spat out a big mouthful of essence blood, which burned fiercely. Chapter 549. Almost 30% of undying demon Venerable's essence blood was being burned. The more powerful one was, the greater the price one had to pay for burning essence blood. Burning essence blood meant that undying demon Venerable's strength would drop by 30%. This was the result of his thousands of years of bitter cultivation. Now, in order to deal with Chu Fengyan, undying demon Venerable disregarded everything and burned his essence blood to kill Chu Fengyan. Demons are 10 feet taller. Indiscriminate destruction. Undying demon Venerable madly roared and pushed his spiritual power to the extreme. His body trembled as he burned his essence blood. This made undying demon Venerable's heart ache. However, in order to kill Chu Fengyan, it was all worth it. Not good. This undying demon Venerable has gone mad. Feeling undying demon Venerable's power, Chu Fengyan's body trembled. Undying demon Venerable's strength was already among the top of countless life and death experts. Now that he was burning his essence blood, his strength had risen to the extreme. This move, indiscriminate destruction, was undying demon Venerable's ultimate move. He didn't hesitate to burn his essence blood to kill Chu Fengyan. Battle Dragon Strength. Natal Sword Essence. Slaughter Dao. Condense and merge with the sword. Chu Fengyan's expression was also extremely solemn. This was the undying demon Venerable's true killing move and also his final killing move. If he couldn't block it, all of Chu Fengyan's efforts would be for naught. It would be meaningless. Everlasting Sword. On Chu Fengyan's body, his sword intent had also condensed to the extreme. The extreme sword intent revolved around his sword edge. Facing the boundless demonic intent descending from the sky, the sword edge in his hand slashed down. Pung! The sword edge and demonic intent collided in the air. Chu Fengmian's sword intent was almost instantly destroyed. A terrifying expert of high-level life and death realm had burned his essence blood and cultivated bitterly for 1,000 years to unleash his strongest attack. No one could imagine how powerful it was. Chu Fengmian's strength couldn't contend against it at all. In an instant, his body was surrounded by boundless spiritual power. It was an absolute death trap. In the next moment, Chu Fengmian was about to be crushed by this spiritual power. Crack! Chu Fengmian's body began to shatter under this power. Even with the power of his battle dragon bloodline and his body that had been tempered by the sky crystal, he could not fight against this terrifying power. It was as if Chu Fengmian would be completely annihilated in an instant. However, at this moment, a surge of spiritual energy erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. This surge of spiritual energy swept away all the spiritual energy around Chu Fengmian. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's body condensed instantly. The aura on Chu Fengmian's body was completely different from before. He had broken through. At this critical juncture, Chu Fengmian's cultivation level finally broke through again. Countless surging spiritual energies surrounded Chu Fengmian and finally poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The ancient war dragon's blood essence in his body had reached a total of 9,000 drops. He had truly stepped into the 8th level of the divine force realm. Damn it, this brat actually broke through at this moment. However, even if you break through now, it's useless. You're destined to die today. The immortal demon Exalted's face was extremely crazy when he saw Chu Fengmian break through. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Chu Fengmian was almost killed by him just now. Now that he had recovered, he was so angry that he was about to die. The immortal demon Exalted was furious. He bombarded Chu Fengmian with boundless spiritual energy again. Universe Strike. Countless spiritual weapons appeared on the immortal demon Exalted's body. Not only were there spiritual weapons, there were also countless mystical items. All of his wealth appeared at once. All of them were burned and turned into the purest spiritual energy. He had gambled everything he had. The power of this attack was even more terrifying than before. This time, Chu Fengmian's face became incomparably relaxed. He was no longer as nervous as before. Old demon, do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Chu Fengmian let out a long roar. Suddenly, countless drops of blood were burned in his hand. These drops of blood were the blood of the Blood Sea. The spiritual energy contained in them was incomparably pure. The spiritual energy that was burned was no different from burning spiritual stones. The spiritual energy in the Blood Sea was endless. No matter how much it was burned, Chu Fengmian did not feel any heartache. The burning spiritual energy was all gathered on the ancestral dragon supreme, sword by Chu Fengmian. Suddenly, he held the sword and slashed at the immortal demon Exalted. Bang! The two forces clashed once again. This time around, the two forces had actually reached a level where they were evenly matched. What? The immortal demon Exalted's face was extremely gloomy when he saw that Chu Fengmian's strength was enough to contend against him. The ant in his eyes had actually reached a level where he could contend against him now. Chu Fengmian's cultivation realm had officially stepped into level 8 divine power realm. He truly had the strength to contend against the immortal demon Exalted. Not only that, the spiritual energy in Chu Fengmian's body was still rising crazily. The stronger Chu Fengmian's power was, the greater the power that the ancient war dragon's shadow in the Blood Sea was absorbing. The speed at which the ancient war dragon's blood essence was condensed in his body had increased by a lot. At the moment when Chu Fengmian slashed out his sword, his cultivation realm had another breakthrough and reached level 9 divine power realm. Ha ha! Immortal demon Exalted, you've chased me all the way here. Looks like the one who's going to die today is you. Chu Fengmian looked at the immortal demon Exalted and laughed loudly. He had been chased by the immortal demon Exalted for so long. Now, Chu Fengmian's strength had finally reached the level where he could contend against the immortal demon Exalted. Sword roaring in the 9 heavens. The ancestral dragon supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand moved. As he slashed out, the sword aura suddenly turned into 9 ancient war dragons. They roared repeatedly and chased after the immortal demon exalted. The strength of each ancient war dragon had already reached the high level of life and death realm. No matter how strong the immortal demon exalted was, he couldn't contend against 9 high-level life and death realm ancient war dragons. Run! The immortal demon exalted roared madly. He wasn't a madman. He naturally understood that the current Chu Fengmian was no longer someone he could contend against. If he went all out, his strength should surpass Chu Fengmian. However, he was first heavily injured by the Emperor Jar and then broke through countless seals. Under such heavy injuries, he simply didn't have the strength to contend against Chu Fengmian. Making a prompt decision, the immortal demon exalted turned into a ray of light and flew away. Chapter 550. Previously, the immortal demon Venerable had been chasing Chu Fengmian all the way, forcing Chu Fengmian into a desperate situation countless times. Now, the tables had turned. Chu Fengmian's strength had reached its limit in the Blood Sea. Boom! Chu Fengmian's strength finally stopped rising. His strength had reached the limit of the divine power realm. In Chu Fengmian's blood vessels, there were a total of 12,960 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence condensed. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancient battle dragon shadow had already condensed 2 claws. This also meant that Chu Fengmian now had close to 1/10 of the ancient battle dragon's bloodline power. This was the limit of the divine power realm. If Chu Fengmian wanted to advance further, he had to break through the bottleneck again. However, this was already enough. In the ancient Dragon Emperor cave dwelling, Chu Fengmian had already obtained countless opportunities, especially the Blood Sea, which was simply a great opportunity. Chu Fengmian had to condense the ancient battle dragon blood essence every time he broke through a realm in the battle dragon skill, which consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Now, the Blood Sea was a treasure trove of spiritual energy, allowing Chu Fengmian's realm to reach the limit of the divine power realm. This only consumed less than 1/10 of the spiritual energy in the Blood Sea. The spiritual energy in the Blood Sea was simply enormous. Although it was not as great as the Saint Spring of the Beimeng Academy, it was comparable to the spiritual energy of millions or even hundreds of millions of royal-grade spiritual stones. I will collect the Blood Sea later. Today, I must kill the immortal demon Venerable. Chu Fengmian moved and chased after the immortal demon Venerable. The immortal demon Venerable had been chasing Chu Fengmian for so long, forcing Chu Fengmian into a desperate situation countless times. If Chu Fengmian let him go, he would not be Chu Fengmian anymore. Moreover, the immortal demon Venerable knew all of Chu Fengmian's trump cards. If Chu Fengmian let him go, the immortal demon Venerable would definitely spread the news and bring Chu Fengmian endless trouble. His bloodline, the ancestral dragon supreme sword, the power of creation, and even the Emperor's jar. Even the old antiques of the 7 major sects wanted to obtain them. No matter what, the immortal demon Venerable would fall in the ancient Dragon Emperor cave dwelling today. Run, run, run. Once I escape, I'll reveal all of this brat's trump cards. At that time, there's no need for our Earth Demon sect to deal with him. The 7 great sects will be the first to kill him. Immortal demon Venerable fled as fast as he could. At the same time, he had already come up with a plan to leak information about Chu Fengmian. Today, in order to deal with Chu Fengmian, he had exhausted all of his wealth and even burned his blood essence, paying such a great price. If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be worthy of being called a devil. However, his imagination was not over yet. A streak of light was faster than him, catching up to him from behind. Several sword glows were unleashed, sealing off the space in the surroundings. This scene was simply déjà vu. Now, it was the undying demon Venerable who was trapped inside. Damn it! How can this person's escape light be so fast? Fight! As long as I can escape today and leak this person's information, it will be enough to avenge me. Undying demon Venerable had a crazed look on his face. A drop of demon blood suddenly appeared in his bosom. The spiritual power contained in this drop of demon blood was even purer than that of the dragon blood in the blood sea. Whose blood essence is this? Such demonic intent. It must be a drop of blood essence from one of the top figures in the 9 regions. Chu Fengmian looked at the drop of demon blood in Undying Demon Venerable's hand in astonishment. The Undying Demon Venerable had kept such a trump card. Damn brat, this blood essence was left behind by the 10 heavenly demons. Originally, I wanted to obtain the inheritance of the 10 heavenly demons. Today I have no choice but to use this demon blood. Undying Demon Venerable's eyes were filled with reluctance. This drop of demon blood was the blood essence of the 10 heavenly demons, one of the top figures in the history of the 9 regions. This drop of blood essence was related to the inheritance of the 10 heavenly demons. Now, that Undying Demon Venerable had swallowed it. It meant that he had to give up the inheritance of the 10 heavenly demons. But now, he had no other choice. Brat, you'll be hunted down by countless experts. I'll spread your news to every corner of the 9 regions. Undying Demon Venerable swallowed the drop of demon blood, and his strength was instantly restored to its peak. The 10 heavenly demons were no weaker than ancient Dragon Emperor Yan. This drop of blood was not the ordinary blood of the 10 heavenly demons. It was a drop of blood essence that contained the peak power of the 10 heavenly demons. After swallowing it, Undying Demon Venerable's strength was instantly restored to its peak. Sensing this power, Undying Demon Venerable's face was filled with confidence. He turned around and threw a punch at Chu Fengmian. He wanted to use the power of the 10 heavenly demons' blood essence to kill Chu Fengmian. Undying Demon Venerable's punch contained endless mysteries. It was a punch that was close to his perfect state. When he threw it out, its power was several times stronger than before. He displayed the true strength of an important figure in the Earth Demon sect. However, Chu Fengmian's expression was extremely calm. He did not care if Undying Demon Venerable had recovered to his perfect state. Chu Fengmian slowly picked up the Ancestral Dragon Supreme sword in the face of this attack and infused its sword intent into it. Boom! When his sword landed, the two forces collided and shook Dragon Emperor Yin Gu's cave abode. The aftershock from the collision was enough to kill a martial artist like Luo Zhanin. The two forces were in a stalemate. However, in the next moment, the power of Undying Demon Venerable's punch was completely destroyed. So what if you have swallowed the 10 heavenly demons' blood essence? Your full strength is nothing more than an ant in front of the current me. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly, and the blade of his sword increased. Half of the Undying Demon Venerable's body was devoured in an instant. His body was split into 2, and the other half of his body was completely destroyed by the sword. Impossible! My full strength. How can my full strength be defeated? Undying Demon Venerable shouted in disbelief. I will never die. No one can kill me. Undying Demon Venerable roared. On the other side of his body, the body that was destroyed by the sword started to reform again. Undying Demon Venerable cultivated some kind of cultivation technique that had the same effect as the battle dragon art. At least he could recover quickly from any injuries that were not fatal. However, in Chu Fengmian's opinion, Undying Demon Venerable was just a momentary recovery before death. He could only use it once. Undying Demon Venerable? Let's see how many times you can recover. Slash. Chu Fengmian snorted, and the blade of his sword fell again. Chapter 551. The Undying Demon Venerable's recovery was just the final radiance of the setting sun. His cultivation method was enough to condense the spiritual energy in his body. Therefore, no matter how serious the injury, he could recover. Thus, he was called the Undying Demon Venerable. However, the Undying Demon Venerable's spiritual energy would always be exhausted. Today, even if the Undying Demon Venerable had 1,000 lives, Chu Fengmian would still kill him. Sword break. The Ancestral Dragon Supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand suddenly slashed down. This sword was the real killing move. A terrifying sword domain shrouded the undying demon venerable's body. Under this sword intent, the undying demon venerable's body was directly shattered. However, in the next moment, he recovered instantly. As long as he had spiritual energy, the undying demon venerable was a true immortal existence. However, under this sword attack, the undying demon venerable's spiritual energy had been consumed by 30%. If this continued, the undying demon venerable would die in Chu Fengmian's hands sooner or later. Damn it! How could this kid's strength reach such a terrifying level? The undying demon venerable looked at Chu Fengmian and felt the terror of Chu Fengmian's sword. He had never expected this. He had once survived the pursuit of a peak life and death expert. Therefore, he was called the undying demon venerable. But now, Chu Fengmian's sword attack had broken through 30% of his spiritual energy. If this continued, he would die in a few sword attacks. The undying demon venerable didn't expect that he would die one day. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength was enough to force him to this point, even though he hadn't reached the life and death realm. Go, I'm going to abandon my body. As long as I report to our Earth Demon Sex elders, they'll definitely give me great benefits. Even if I abandon my body, as long as I report this news, I'll be able to make up for all my losses. The undying demon venerable let out a long roar. His body suddenly exploded, turning into a huge explosion that bombarded Chu Fengmian's endless spiritual energy. At the same time, his soul turned into a streak of light and fled outside. The undying demon venerable wanted to self-destruct to delay Chu Fengmian and buy him time to escape. Escape? In my hands, you have nowhere to run. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. He moved his sword in the face of the oncoming explosion. The power of the explosion was instantly dispersed by Chu Fengmian's sword. At the same time, Chu Fengmian reached out with his hand, suppressing undying devil paragon and sealing him inside. Boom! Just as the undying demon venerable was sealed, a series of rumbling sounds could be heard. Two more figures charged in from within the space. These two silhouettes were exuding a demonic aura. The blood-red robes they wore indicated their status. They were also two great figures of the Earth Demon sect. These two were only a bit weaker than Undying Demon Venerable at his peak. However, they had both reached the 6th level of life and death realm, stepping into high-level life and death realm. Demon Venerable Li Sha, Demon Venerable Blood, both of you come and save me. The Undying Demon Venerable shouted when he saw the two figures. What? Undying Demon Venerable? You were actually forced into such a state by a divine force realmant. Demon Venerable Li Sha and Demon Venerable Blood looked at Undying Demon Venerable, who was sealed by Chu Fengmian's palm, and then glanced at Chu Fengmian. For a moment, they were incomparably astonished. However, the two quickly reacted and looked at Chu Fengmian, furiously shouting, "Brat, you dare to suppress Undying Demon Venerable? Do you want to become enemies with our Earth Demon sect? A mere divine force realm ant dares to be impudent in front of our Earth Demon sect? Seeing that you're from the North Sea Academy, we'll kill you today and teach the Academy a lesson." Demon Venerable Li Sha furiously roared as a supreme killing intent condensed on his body and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. This killing intent turned into formless killing swords and pierced towards Chu Fengmian. Such tyrannical power was enough to kill Luo Zhanhen and Bai Xian with a wave of his hand. Ents, you two trash dare to be impudent? Just as well. Today, if anyone from your Earth Demon sect comes, I'll kill them and use your blood as a sacrifice. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted as the sword in his hand suddenly moved. If his strength hadn't broken through, any high-level life and death expert could easily defeat Chu Fengmian and even hunt him down. However, now that Chu Fengmian had successfully broken through, even Undying Demon Venerable was like an ant before him. Demon Venerable Li Sha was nothing. World Sword Transformation. The moment Chu Fengmian's sword slashed out, it immediately filled the sky with swords, turning the surrounding space into a world of swords. The killing intent on demon Venerable Li Sha's body was directly cut apart by the countless swords. He was forced back several steps and spurted out a mouthful of blood. What a powerful sword art! What kind of sword art is this? No, his power comes from the sword in his hand. Heaven-grade spirit artifact. This is Dragon Emperor Yengu's ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Demon Venerable Blood looked at the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand and deeply understood how powerful the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was. The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was the Dragon Clan's supreme treasure, an outstanding heaven-grade spirit artifact. In Chu Fengmian's hand, it was almost invincible. Let's attack together and kill this kid. Let's fight a bloody battle. Demon Venerable Blood attacked crazily. His body exploded, and countless essence blood burst out and began to burn. Demon Venerable Blood was a madman when he fought. He first injured himself before injuring others. An incomparably huge blood-colored palm print suddenly descended from the sky, bombarding Chu Fengmian. Great killing palm print. Demon Venerable Li Sha also attacked, bombarding with a palm print. Overflowing demonic intent, lawless. Undying Demon Venerable also mobilized almost all of his spiritual power and suddenly condensed it into a fist. He used all of his strength to launch a final attack, wanting to thoroughly kill Chu Fengmian. A bunch of ants, you want to overturn the heavens with your combined strength. Chu Fengmian said faintly, and the sword in his hand moved. On the sword, the battle dragon art and Chu Fengmian's sword intent merged into one. Each of the sword blades contained endless dragon power. Destroy. The sword in Chu Fengmian's hand fell, and the countless sword blades turned into ferocious ancient battle dragons, roaring as they descended. Suddenly, the dragons danced wildly, and dragons soared into the sky. All of the power condensed by the three demons was completely defeated by the countless battle dragons. With a miserable cry, Demon Venerable Li Sha was directly devoured by an ancient battle dragon. Chapter 552. Every one of the primordial battle dragons was condensed from Chu Fengmian's sword. Demon Ancestor Li Sha was devoured, and the sword stirred. Demon Ancestor Li Sha was immediately shattered by the countless sword edges, and his blood chi and spiritual energy were all devoured by Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy had already reached its limit. Demon Ancestor Li Sha's blood chi suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. With a single thought from Chu Fengmian, the blood chi within condensed into a fist-sized crystal. The spiritual energy within the crystal was much purer than that of a royal-grade spirit stone. It had even reached the legendary Emperor grade. Transform. Chu Fengmian's fingertip moved, and all the blood chi within the crystal was separated. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancient slaughter god shadow condensed and devoured the blood chi. All that was left was an incomparably pure spirit stone. Is this even something a human can do? The undying Demon Venerable and the bloody Demon Venerable were horrified when they saw Demon Venerable, ruthless Demon Venerable die at Chu Fengmian's hands and be refined into a spiritual stone. 3 high-level life and death experts besieged Chu Fengmian, yet they were easily dealt with and even defeated in an instant. Leave quickly and report this to the sect. Demon Ancestor Bloodbath Demon Ancestor and Undying Demon Ancestor glanced at each other, and their figures moved, wanting to escape. However, before their escape light could condense, Chu Fengmian's body had already blocked their path. Want to escape now? Too late. You'll all stay here and accompany Demon Ancestor Li Sha in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy crazily rose, and endless energy condensed on the sword edge in his hand. Shocking the heavens, Chu Fengmian indifferently spat out 2 words. The sword edge fell. Devil Paragon Undying and Devil Paragon Bloodbath both perished in the blink of an eye, their bodies exploding as Chu Fengmian collected their blood and chi. At the same time, 2 crystals were condensed in Chu Fengmian's hand. 3 colorless crystals were in Chu Fengmian's hands. Who would have thought that these 3 crystals belonged to 3 terrifying high-level life and death experts? My strength has finally reached this level. With my current strength, unless I am up against some old antiques in the northern region, even if I am unable to defeat them, I will still be able to retreat in one piece. There is no need for me to hide anything anymore. Chu Fengyan was overjoyed. Coming to the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave dwelling, Chu Fengyan had gained countless benefits. He had raised his strength to the limit of the divine power realm, and even obtained the ancestral Dragon Paragon sword. Furthermore, Chu Fengyan had yet to reap the greatest benefit. The greatest benefit of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode was the boundless Blood Sea. The spiritual energy in the Blood Sea was the greatest wealth. Chu Fengyan's figure vanished in the blink of an eye and reappeared above the Blood Sea. Rise! Chu Fengyan urged his spiritual energy and grabbed the Blood Sea with his hand. The incomparably huge Blood Sea was directly pulled up by Chu Fengyan. The incomparably huge Blood Sea in Chu Fengyan's hand continuously shrank until it was only the size of a puddle of water. However, the spiritual energy contained in every drop of blood in the Blood Sea was much purer than before. Collect! When the Blood Sea had condensed to a radius of 100 meters, Chu Fengyan opened an empty ring and collected the Blood Sea completely. Looking at the Blood Sea, it was simply a huge sum of money. All the wealth Chu Fengyan had obtained before couldn't even be compared to a hair from 9 oxen. The spiritual energy in the Blood Sea was on the same level as the Saint Spring under the Northern Sea Academy. If Chu Fengyan was willing, he could already establish a sect and nurture a great force. With so much spiritual energy, what kind of disciple couldn't he nurture? However, Chu Fengyan didn't have such plans. His battle dragon art was a super glutton. Even if the Blood Sea's spiritual energy was enormous, there would be a day when it would be used up. Chu Fengyan also felt that the Blood Sea's spiritual energy wouldn't be enough for Chu Fengyan's cultivation when he reached the life and death realm. However, before reaching the life and death realm, Chu Fengyan could still wantonly consume the spiritual energy in the Blood Sea. Chu Fengyan moved his finger and condensed a puddle of blood from the Blood Sea. Immediately, the puddle of blood turned into the purest spiritual energy and turned into an Emperor-grade spirit stone. The Blood Chi and Dragon Power were all devoured by the battle dragon art. The Blood Sea represented endless wealth. Chu Fengyan could also buy countless treasures to increase his strength. For Chu Fengyan, pure spiritual energy couldn't increase his strength by much. Chu Fengyan had to buy countless treasures to support him to break through the bottleneck. Let's go. I've already obtained countless treasures in this ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave. It's time to leave. Chu Fengyan's figure flickered and disappeared from this space. The ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave was still extremely chaotic. In fact, it was even more chaotic than when Chu Fengyan first entered. Countless forces and experts swarmed in to fight for the treasures inside. Apart from the Blood Sea and the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, there were also countless treasures inside the cave. A single Emperor-grade Spirit Stone was enough to make many life and death experts go crazy. Chu Fengyan saw countless killings and robberies along the way. However, Chu Fengyan was no longer interested in these things. The Blood Sea was worth millions or even tens of millions of Emperor-grade Spirit Stones. How could a rich man snatch things from some beggars? At the exit of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode, several experts suddenly sealed off the space. These experts came from some first-rate forces in the North region. Although these forces couldn't compete with the two behemoths, North Sea Academy and Earth Demon Sect, their combined strength was enough to make the North Sea Academy apprehensive. The experts from the first-rate forces had joined forces and sealed off the exit of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode. Countless martial artists were stuck here, unable to leave. Chu Fengyan glanced over and saw Bai Xian among them. It seemed that Bai Xian had also suffered some injuries in the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave. Her clothes were dyed red, and her aura was unstable. Clearly, she had suffered some serious injuries. These experts sealed the exit, making it impossible for anyone to leave. Chapter 553. Kanglin Family. Foam family, burning sky sect. These three forces have sealed off the exit. What are they trying to do? The martial artists present were all stuck inside, unable to leave. They sized up the martial artists of the three forces and started discussing. However, their complexions didn't look too good. These three forces couldn't have gathered here just to drink tea. Thump! Thump! A middle-aged martial artist walked out from the crowd. The moment they saw him, countless people were startled. It's Kanglin family's elder, Kanglin and I. This Kanglin I is at the 6th level of life and death realm. How could such a high-level life and death expert appear here? Some martial artists cried out in alarm. Kanglin and I was a big shot of the Kanglin family. Any high-level life and death expert wouldn't be considered weak in any force of the North region. Kanglin and I walked out from the crowd and took a step forward. He swept his gaze over the crowd and coldly snorted. Everyone, please give our three forces some face and hand over all the treasures you obtained from Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. As long as you hand over all the treasures, we can let you leave safely. Kanglin and I said. Although his tone was calm, it contained an extremely frightening, killing intent. Those who heard it couldn't help but feel their hearts turn cold. His words contained an extremely frightening spiritual power. Some of the weaker martial artists directly fainted from shock. What? Damn it! The people from the three major forces actually want to snatch our treasures. They're simply bandits. They want to rob us. The Kanglin family is too arrogant. Some of the martial artists frowned when they heard Kanglin Ni's words. Some of them even revealed killing intent in their eyes. Cutting off one's path to wealth was like killing one's parents. The treasures they obtained from Dragon Emperor Yan's cave were obtained through countless battles. Now, with just a few words from Kanglin and I, it was impossible for them to hand over all their treasures. The people of the Kanglin family are really arrogant. You dare to seal the cave of Dragon Emperor Yengu? Even the Northern Sea Academy doesn't dare to do this. How dare you? In the crowd, a martialist suddenly stepped forward and shouted at the Kanglin and I. What if we don't hand it over? Before the martial artist finished speaking, a killing intent suddenly appeared in the eyes of the Kanglin rebel. He said in an incomparably cold voice, "Those who disobey will be killed without mercy." Bang! Kanglin and I waved his hand and grabbed at the martial artist. The martial artist was immediately caught in his hand. A junior who hasn't even passed a life and death tribulation dares to be impudent in front of me? Die. Ah! That martial artist let out a blood-curdling scream as he was instantly crushed by the Azure Sea reverse. Warriors who could come to the Void Ocean were all peak saints and had some status in the various forces. However, the cultivator in front of him had been crushed to death by the Azure Sea reversal without any hesitation. Let's see who dares to provoke our Kanglin family. The Azure Sea reverse sneered as his eyes swept across the crowd. Immediately, a few life and death realm martial artists in the crowd couldn't help but take a few steps back. Even if they had reached the life and death realm, they couldn't contend against the Azure Sea reverse, who was at the high level of the life and death realm. The scene fell silent. No one dared to go against the Azure Sea reverse. Now, everyone, hand over all the treasures. Those who disobey will die. The Azure Sea reverse's eyes swept across the crowd. This sentence was a direct threat. When he saw that no one was moving, he suddenly charged towards one of the supremacies and made a grabbing motion. Bang! This martialist died in the hands of the Azure Sea reverse without any hesitation. No one has taken the initiative to hand over the treasures. Then, all of you will die today. The Azure Sea reverse roared and waved his hand. It swept towards the crowd, wanting to kill them all. Kill! Let's fight it out with the Azure Sea reverse. Countless martial artists also fought back. None of them could make them hand over the treasures they had painstakingly obtained in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. A disciple of second-rate force, Falling Leaves sect, dares to fight me? Die. The Azure Sea defying sword suddenly struck out with a palm, directly crushing the first martial artist who shouted. Suddenly, his eyes flickered and swept across the crowd. He suddenly saw a white figure. This white figure was Bai Xian. Bai Xian, I heard that you obtained countless treasures in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. Hand over all the treasures you have. Considering that you are a disciple of North Sea Academy, I can still let you live today. The Azure Sea Reverse coldly said to Bai Xian. Dream on. Bai Xian snorted and slashed at the Azure Sea Reverse with her sword. With Bai Xian's personality, how could she allow herself to be slaughtered by the Azure Sea Reverse? You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. So what if you are a disciple of North Sea Academy? You're just an inner disciple. If I kill you, North Sea Academy won't dare to fall out with our Azure Sea family. Since you don't know when to back down, I'll kill you first. The Azure Sea Reverse sneered and sent out a palm, shattering Bai Xian's sword. His strength was at the high level of life and death realm. Dealing with some divine force realm martial artists was a piece of cake. Die! The Azure Sea Reverse spat out a single word and sent out a palm. Powerful spiritual energy was an absolute killing move. The Azure Sea Reverse's full strength was displayed. Bai Xian felt the power of this palm, and her face was filled with fear. A high-level life and death realm expert's tyrannical power wasn't something she could resist. If this palm fell, Bai Xian would die without a doubt. Break! However, almost at this moment, a sound suddenly descended from the sky. This sound was like the roar of a battle dragon. Immediately, the power of the Azure Sea Reverse's palm was completely blocked by this dragon's roar. The power was completely dissolved. The Azure Sea Reverse retreated countless times. Feeling this power, his face turned incomparably grave. Just a single word was enough to dissolve the power of his palm. Even if he hadn't used his full strength, it was still a high-level life and death realm expert. Even if he hadn't used his full strength, it was still a high-level life and death realm expert's palm. Similarly, only high-level life and death realm experts could resist it. Even the Azure Sea Reverse couldn't underestimate such an expert. Which expert are you? Please show yourself for a chat. The Azure Sea Reverse didn't care about these peak saints. If he encountered any resistance, he would just kill them. However, he couldn't do the same to a high-level life and death realm expert. He could only negotiate. Show yourself for a chat? Azure Sea Reverse? You think you're worthy? You dare to injure my friend? It seems like you're courting death. Chapter 554. An incomparably arrogant voice suddenly came from the sky. From the tone of this voice, it was as if he didn't put Kenglin and I, a high-level life and death expert, in his eyes. This incomparably arrogant voice belonged to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian didn't care about the life and death of others, but he owed Bai Xian a great debt of gratitude. Naturally, he wouldn't sit by and watch. Chu Fengmian. Bai Xian's expression immediately turned in a pleasant surprise. This voice was incomparably familiar to her. Chu Fengmian's voice. Originally, when Chu Fengmian was being chased by undying demon venerable, Bai Xian thought that Chu Fengmian was dead for sure. Who would have thought that Chu Fengmian would actually survive? He could even survive the undying demon venerable. However, in the next moment, Bai Xian's heart became incomparably anxious. Chu Fengmian was now facing Kenglin and I. Kenglin Ni's character was originally arrogant to the extreme. Once a conflict broke out, there was no possibility of a good ending, especially Kenglin Ni, who was a high-level life and death expert. In this ancient Dragon Emperor cave, he was almost invincible. Now that Chu Fengmian was facing Kenglin and I, his odds were stacked against him. It wasn't just Bai Xian. Hearing this, the expressions of the countless cultivators present became extremely interesting, and the atmosphere immediately became lively. Who was Kenglin and I? An elder of Kenglin family. Kenglin family was the #1 martial arts family in the North region. Martial arts families had tens of millions of years of inheritance. Their foundation was shockingly deep. Even North Sea Academy wouldn't easily start a conflict with Kenglin family. Now, the voice that suddenly rang out was actually mocking Kenglin defying. Countless people didn't expect that someone would suddenly appear to disrupt the situation. Kenglin Ni's expression instantly turned gloomy after hearing this. His eyes were filled with killing intent, as if he wanted to kill someone. With his status, no one had ever dared to speak to him like this. They actually dared to say that he wasn't worthy. He gave them face, but was kicked back. This was simply an endless humiliation. Sire, aren't your words a bit too arrogant? Since you don't want to give me, Kanglin and I, face, I'll directly capture you, acting mysteriously and playing tricks behind my back. Get out here. Kanglin and I roared angrily. He gathered his spiritual energy and turned it into a huge arm, grabbing at the air. He wanted to grab Chu Fengmian out of the void. Boom! However, when he reached deep into space, he found nothing. Instead, Chu Fengmian's voice sounded again. Rebel of Kanglin, you dare to be arrogant and rob with just this little bit of strength? Are all your Kanglin family members born as bandits? That brat Kanglin Ba has already died in the robbery. Now you want to court death too? Chu Fengmian laughed and said. His figure suddenly appeared in front of Bai Xian. With a wave of his hand, a surge of spiritual energy was injected into Bai Xian's body. The spiritual energy contained a bit of the Battle Dragon Bloodline's power. Although it was unable to change Bai Xian's body, it was enough to heal her injuries. In an instant, the injuries on Bai Xian's body were completely healed. Her strength was even much stronger than before. Bai Xian was extremely surprised. Her injuries were not serious, but they were not light either. It would take at least 1 or 2 months for her to fully recover. However, in Chu Fengmian's hands, she could recover in an instant. What surprised her even more was that Chu Fengmian's aura was even more unfathomable than the last time she saw him. Even Bai Xian could not tell what level Chu Fengmian's strength had reached. Bah! You killed him? Rebel of Kanglin's eyes widened when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Kanglin Ba was the Kanglin family's genius and Rebel of Kanglin's son. Rebel of Kanglin naturally knew about Kanglin Ba's death. He had been searching frantically in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode, trying to find Kanglin Ba's killer. Now that he heard Chu Fengmian's words, the anger in his heart exploded. His face turned red, and he unleashed all his martial skills. Give me your life. I'll use your head as a sacrifice to Ba. As he spoke, Rebel of Kanglin's martial skills were completely condensed. Spiritual energy surrounded his body, making him look as dazzling as the sun. This extremely powerful martial skill was enough to suppress the majority of the people present, making them unable to make a move. He waved his hand, causing the entire void to tremble. A palm fell. This palm contained the mysteries of martial skills, fully displaying the Kanglin family's martial skills. What a terrifying martial skill! Is this the martial Tao of the Kanglin family? A 10,000-year martial Tao aristocratic family? Rebel of Kanglin's strength has already reached the high level of life and death realm. His martial skills are terrifying to the extreme. Such a person is simply invincible. This kid is only at the 9th level of divine power realm. How dare he challenge Rebel of Kanglin? He's courting death. After seeing Chu Fengmian's cultivation realm, the sovereigns shook their heads. They originally thought that Chu Fengmian would be at least at the high level of life and death realm, which was why he dared to challenge Rebel of Kanglin. However, Chu Fengmian was only at the 9th level of divine power realm. Such a person, no matter how monstrous his talent was, defeating a 4th or 5th level life and death realm expert was already his limit. Being arrogant with strength could be said to be arrogant, but being arrogant without strength was just courting death. The 6th level of life and death realm was already at the high level of life and death realm. This was a completely different level of strength. It wasn't something a divine power realm expert could shake. Be careful. Kanglin family's martial skills are based on strength. You can't take it head on. Bai Xian warned. She could see that Chu Fengmian had encountered many fortuitous encounters in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave, and his strength had advanced by another step. However, Rebel of Kanglin was a high-level life and death realm expert after all. Such a person wasn't someone a divine power realm expert could shake. Not many of the North Sea Academy's seed disciples could do it. Only those in the top 10 of the Sky ranking could do it. However, such people were only legends. Only those who had bitterly cultivated at the 9th level of divine power realm for hundreds or thousands of years could reach this step. Chu Fengmian looked like he had just reached the 9th level of divine power realm, and hadn't accumulated enough strength yet. How could he reach this step? Bai Xian believed in Chu Fengmian's strength. However, after seeing Rebel of Kanglan make a move, she could only sigh, as if she could already see the outcome. All eyes were on Chu Fengmian. They wanted to see how an arrogant junior like Chu Fengmian would be killed by Rebel of Kanglan. For chapters for today, my writing is too bad. I've already written until 2 in the morning. I'll be in a good state tomorrow. Chapter 555. Under everyone's gaze, the Azure Sea Reversal's palm ruthlessly landed on Chu Fengmian's body. The power contained within this palm was the purest form of martial Tao without any fancy techniques. Thump! The moment the palm landed, the power of the surrounding heaven and earth was mobilized. This martial Tao was enough to communicate with heaven's will. The martial Tao within this palm had reached the pinnacle of mystery. The Azure Sea Reversal's martial Tao had reached the pinnacle. Oh, it's enough to mobilize heaven and earth. This martial Tao can be considered to have reached greater completion. Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the incoming palm. Chu Fengmian's expression was calm to the extreme as he faintly opened his mouth. Unfortunately, you're courting death. You dare to be impudent in front of me with this martial Tao? Laughable. Chu Fengmian let out a long roar and moved his body. Chu Fengmian didn't use any sword Tao. Instead, he condensed countless spiritual energy in his palm and similarly struck out with a palm. He planned to use the same palm technique to resist the Azure Sea Reversal. Is this kid crazy? Is he trying to fight the Kanglan family with brute force? A spectator couldn't help but speak. He looked at Chu Fengmian and shook his head as if he was looking at a dead man. The Kanglan family's strongest point was martial Tao. There were countless ways to deal with the Kanglan family, but Chu Fengmian chose the most foolish way. Fighting with brute force against the Kanglan family was simply courting death. Even some high-level life and death realm cultivators wouldn't dare to fight against the Azure Sea Reversal. How could Chu Fengmian, who hadn't even stepped into the life and death realm, do it? Rumble! The two forces collided in the air. The sound of the explosion was deafening. Countless spiritual energy wantonly engulfed Chu Fengmian and the Azure Sea Reversal. This kid is definitely going to die, a martial Tao expert said. One of the venerables said. However, in the next moment, a dragon's roar resounded in the sky. Chu Fengmian's palm directly turned into an incomparably huge ancient war dragon and roared. The Kanglan reverse, which contained the essence of martial arts, was actually directly shattered by the ancient war dragon. That was not the end of it. The primordial war dragon was like a whirlwind. After devouring countless martial arts energy, it charged towards the Kanglan inverse. At this moment, the situation was completely reversed. How is this possible? He actually lost to the Azure Sea defying palm head-on. Impossible. Impossible. The Azure Tide Reversal is a high-level life and death realm expert, while this guy is merely at the peak of the divine force realm. How can he possibly fight against the Azure Tide Reversal? The eyes of the Martial Highness realm cultivators almost fell out from their sockets as they discussed among themselves. In their opinion, this was a battle without any suspense. They had just exchanged blows, and the Azure Tide defying sword had actually fallen into a disadvantageous position. Being suppressed by a divine force realm cultivator in a head-on confrontation was simply unbelievable. This was something that shocked everyone present. Even the Azure Tide defying sword himself could not imagine such an outcome. His face was filled with shock as he took a few steps back before he calmed down. What a brat. It seems like you possess the bloodline of the dragon tribe. Your strength is incomparable. No wonder you dare to be so presumptuous in front of me. That's right. Today, I will tell you that the power of bloodline is just an external object. Martial arts is the only truth. The Azure Tide, defying sword's eyes were filled with deep killing intent. He was thoroughly enraged. From his body, the martial arts energy that was countless times stronger than before was fully displayed. 7 forms of the god of war. Bang, bang, bang. The Azure Tide, defying sword threw out a total of 7 punches, which turned into 7 blazing suns that contained boundless and terrifying martial arts energy. At the same time, they bombarded towards Chu Fengmian. The 7 forms of the god of war was the ultimate technique of the Kanglan family. Now that the Azure Tide Defying Sword had used this move, he did not intend to give Chu Fengmian any chance to retaliate. He wanted to thoroughly defeat Chu Fengmian with this move. The Azure Tide Tyrannical had also used this move before. However, the Azure Tide Tyrannical couldn't compare to the 7 forms of the god of war used by the Azure Tide Defying Sword. The blazing suns condensed by the Azure Tide Tyrannical were like sparks. However, the Azure Tide Defying Sword condensed true blazing suns. This move could only be used by high-level life and death realm experts. Rumble. The appearance of the 7 blazing suns caused the space to tremble. Countless spectators retreated one after another, hastily dodging. Under this frightening power, if anyone was careless and got caught in it, even the slightest aftershock would be enough to destroy them. You're called Chu Fengmian. Very good. There hasn't been a youngster who dared to be as arrogant as you, daring to provoke our Kanglan family. Even a North Sea Academy behind you can't protect you. Today, I'll kill you and let others see the price of provoking our Kanglan family. The Azure Tide Defying Sword furiously roared as a fist suddenly descended from the sky. What followed was the descent of the 7 blazing suns. 7 blazing suns descended from the sky, erupting with power that was 10 times stronger than the Azure Tide Defying Sword's palm. You want to kill me? You don't have the qualifications. Kanglan family? Since you dared to provoke me, there's no need for the Kanglan family to continue existing. One day, I'll destroy the Kanglan family. As for you, Azure Tide Defying Sword, I'll kill you today. I'll let you accompany your son. Chu Fengmian laughed. Facing the descent of the 7 blazing suns, there wasn't the slightest bit of nervousness on his face. His body suddenly enlarged, turning into an incomparably huge primordial battle dragon, soaring into the sky. Facing the 7 blazing suns, Chu Fengmian, who had transformed into a primordial battle dragon, suddenly waved his hand. An incomparably huge battle dragon claw descended from the sky. Break for me. Pong. The 7 blazing suns were smashed into pieces by the battle dragon claw without any suspense. The 7 blazing suns were all shattered, and the backlash made the Azure Tide Defying Sword continuously retreat. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This was their Kanglan family's secret technique, a supreme killing move. Yet, it was easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian. He wanted to counterattack, but in the next moment, the incomparably huge battle dragon claw had already bombarded the Azure Tide Defying Sword's body. No! The Azure Tide Defying Sword cried out in alarm. He could already feel that the battle dragon claw's power had completely surpassed his. He could already feel that his death was approaching. Stop! You dare, you bastard! 2 figures suddenly rushed out from the crowd of the 3 forces. These 2 figures were white-haired old men. Their strength had actually reached the high level of life and death realm, which was extremely close to the Azure Tide Defying Sword. Chapter 556. Its Feng family's Feng, Qianyan, and Burning Sky sects Fun Tianjue. Some martial artists recognized the 2 old men who suddenly appeared and said aloud. These 2 are also big shots of the Feng family and Burning Sky sect. They actually appeared. This person is in trouble. 2 more high-level life and death realm experts have actually made their move. Originally, when Chu Fengmian was dealing with the Azure Water Repulsion, he already had the upper hand. However, right at that moment, 2 more figures rushed out and attacked Chu Fengmian. Burning Sky Flame, 1,000 Miles Wind Kill. Feng Qianyan and Fun Tianjue attacked almost at the same time. 2 forces bombarded Chu Fengmian, wanting to help the Azure Water Repulsion resist Chu Fengmian's Battle Dragon Claw. 3 high-level life and death realm experts attacked at the same time. In everyone's eyes, this was simply an unimaginable scene, especially Chu Fengmian, who was only a divine power realm martial artist. To be able to defeat the Azure Water Repulsion and force 3 high-level life and death realm experts to attack him at the same time. This was already enough to be called a supreme glory. However, this was already the limit. In everyone's eyes, Chu Fumian had to stop this time. If he didn't, he would have to face the joint attack of 3 high-level life and death realm martial artists. However, in the next moment, Chu Fumian's actions stunned countless people. Chu Fumian raised his eyebrows. Seeing Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue's joint attack, his expression didn't change at all. There was even disdain in Chu Fumian's eyes. You too. Do you think you can contend against me by joining hands? Today, however many of you come, you will all die. Chu Fumian coldly snorted. In his body, all 12,960 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence were activated. The patterns on the battle dragon claw suddenly condensed, and its power increased explosively. It was countless times stronger than before. All of you die for me. The war dragon's claw slashed down mercilessly. The might of this claw made everyone feel as though they could see the ancient war dragon in the ancient times, who would lead you to command the heavens and earth. It was as if a claw suddenly appeared from the long river of history. The strength of Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue in front of the battle dragon's claw seemed to have become incomparably weak. The spiritual energy that the two of them had gathered was instantly crushed by the battle dragon's claw. In terms of strength, they weren't even on the same level. Boom! Without any hesitation, the massive war dragon claw blasted towards the 3 of them. The body of the Kanglan rebel was instantly smashed into smithereens. Only some blood mist was directly swallowed by Chu Fumian, quietly turning into a new crystal in Chu Fumian's hand. This is Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue, at the last moment, urged their spiritual energy to escape without caring about anything else. Otherwise, the 2 of them would have been instantly killed by the battle dragon claw. The entire place was silent. The death of the Kanglan rebel had set off waves of shock in the hearts of countless people. The deep sea rebel had actually fallen just like that. He had died under the claws of the war dragon. No matter who it was, no one would have thought that the Kanglan rebel would actually die, and even die in the hands of a divine power realm martial artist. Countless martial artists looked at Chu Fumian as if they were looking at a monster. Just now, Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue had joined forces, but they couldn't resist Chu Fumian's war dragon claw. Fighting against 3 high-level life and death experts at the same time was actually enough to kill the Kanglan rebel. Was this really something that a divine power realm martial artist could do? Countless martial artists had doubts in their hearts. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, none of them would have dared to believe the scene in front of them. Why is this kid's strength so terrifying? Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue were both stunned. They were incomparably shocked. Just now, when they fought with Chu Fumian, they naturally felt the power of Chu Fumian's war dragon claw. This power was simply unstoppable. It could even be said that it was enough to destroy everything. In front of this power, the 2 of them were as weak as ants. They didn't even have the chance to save the Kanglan rebel. It wasn't easy to keep their lives. For a divine power realm martial artist to be able to do this, there was only one possibility. This kid must have obtained the treasures of ancient Dragon Emperor Yan's cave, or even the inheritance of ancient Dragon Emperor Yan. His martial skills are no longer ordinary martial skills of the Dragon Clan. They have even surpassed the martial skills of many Dragon Kings. Yes, this is the only possibility for him to have such a terrifying power. The treasures of ancient Dragon Emperor Yan's cave were actually obtained by such a kid. But it's also good. A kid without any background. Let's go out and contact the family. It's enough to summon experts to completely suppress him and seize his treasures. Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue both glanced at each other and understood from each other's eyes. Leave quickly. Wait for us to summon experts from the family. We'll join forces to completely suppress this person. Without hesitation, the 2 figures turned into 2 streaks of light and suddenly fled outside. Chu Fumian's strength was too strong. The 2 of them couldn't deal with him. Right now, they could only escape. When the family experts arrived, it would be the end of Chu Fengyan. You want to escape now? It's too late. Since the two of you dared to make a move, your fall is destined. Chu Fengyan sneered. Now that his news had spread, Chu Fengyan wasn't afraid at all. The current Chu Fengyan, unless it was those old antiques, it was impossible to kill Chu Fengyan. However, these two people had already committed a capital crime when they wanted to deal with Chu Fengyan. How could they escape now? Get the hell back here. Looking at the two streaks of light in the distance, Chu Fengyan grabbed with both hands. Two incomparably huge spiritual arms directly broke through the space and went deep into the void. In an instant, they appeared in front of the two streaks of light and grabbed Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue. Die for me. Chu Fengyan clenched his fist, and Feng Qinyan and Fun Tianjue were directly crushed by Chu Fengyan. Among them, a pure blood mist was directly devoured by Chu Fengyan. Their empty rings were also obtained by Chu Fengyan. There were hundreds of treasures in the two's empty rings. It seemed that they also had a great harvest in Dragon Emperor Yengu's cave. Now, all of them belonged to Chu Fengyan. With my strength, even if I don't use the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, dealing with ordinary high-level life and Death Realm martial artists is no problem. If I use the Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, even facing an outstanding high-level life and Death Realm expert like Undying Demon Venerable, it's enough to kill him. Chu Fengyan's face revealed a trace of a smile. He was extremely satisfied with his current strength. Chapter 557. With Chu Fengyan's current strength, he could be considered a big shot in the North region. If Chu Fengyan was willing, he could return to the North Sea Academy and display his strength. It would be enough for him to become a seed disciple or even a core disciple. The seven great sects are one step closer to revenge. Killing intent appeared in Chu Fengyan's eyes. The stronger he was, the more Chu Fengyan's killing intent surged. However, this strength was still not enough. There were many old antiques in the seven great sects that had surpassed the life and death realm. Even in the North region, there were many old antiques that had surpassed the life and death realm. If these old antiques made a move, Chu Fengyan would lose without a doubt, and his life might even be in danger. His strength had to be stronger. What Chu Fengyan lacked now was accumulation. Once Chu Fengyan passed the life and death calamity and reached the life and death realm, then he would be able to move unhindered in the North region. However, with my current strength, I'm no longer powerless against the Liu family. After bullying me for so long, it's time for revenge. Chu Fengyan's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He had been targeted countless times in the North Sea Academy. Previously, during the Outer Disciple exam, he had almost suffered a great loss because of the Liu family. Fortunately, Bai Xian had come and helped Chu Fengyan out. However, Chu Fengyan had never forgotten about this grudge. When he returned to the academy, it will be time for revenge. Not only the Liu family, but also Yi Tianjun, Yin Gu, and the others who dare to have designs on Han Yueli. Chu Fengyan would destroy these people sooner or later. When he returned to the academy, it was time for Chu Fengyan to reveal his true talent. Feng Qinyan, Fun Tianjue, these two big shots are dead. How powerful is this person? He can even kill a high-level life and death realm expert. Seems like another Yi Tianjun has risen in the North Sea Academy. Countless martial artists still hadn't recovered from their shock. Feng Qinyan, Fun Tianjue, and Kanglin Defying. These three were all high-level life and death realm experts. They had all heard of them. Today, they had fallen in front of them. No one could have imagined this result. Even Bai Xian didn't expect Chu Fengyan's strength to have reached such a level. When they were in the Beimang Academy, Chu Fengyan's strength was on par with hers. After Chu Fengyan stepped into the Divine Force realm, he had completely surpassed her. But now, Chu Fengyan's strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. He could even kill high-level life and death experts. That's too terrifying. That kind of strength is no longer human. Bai Xian thought with lingering fear. She was glad that she had a good relationship with Chu Fengyan. It would be a real nightmare if she had to make an enemy out of Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan couldn't be bothered to pay attention to what everyone was thinking. He looked at the restrictive spells that had been set up around Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode. Break! Chu Fengmian indifferently spat out a word. The restrictions set up above began to shatter and collapse abruptly. The exit of Dragon Emperor Yan's cave dwelling was opened once again. Let's go, let's go. Countless martial artists flew toward the exit. They had all made great gains in the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave abode, and no one wanted to stay any longer. They quickly left. Let's go too. The disciples of the three major factions exchanged glances with one another when they saw that the barrier had been broken. Then, they turned into beams of light and tried to leave the place. But just as they were about to leave the cave abode, a figure blocked their path. You can only leave if you hand over all your spatial rings. Chu Fengmian said coldly, looking at the disciples of the three major factions. The others could leave, but the people of the three major factions couldn't leave. What? You want us to hand over our spatial rings? Some of the disciples of the three major factions looked at Chu Fengmian and said angrily. The three major factions had a high status in the North region. At the very least, even the people of Beimang Academy didn't target them too much. They could rob others, but no one dared to rob them. Kid, you've gone too far. A fearless disciple seemed to be as arrogant as usual as he said to Chu Fengmian. But the moment he opened his mouth, his voice came to an abrupt halt. A spiritual energy had already bombarded his body, and he was instantly killed on the spot. His spatial ring also fell into Chu Fengmian's hands. Those who disobey will die. Seeing that Chu Fengmian had killed this person, many people of the three major factions slowly came to their senses. Chu Fengmian wasn't the kind of person they usually met. He wouldn't be frightened by the reputation of the three major factions to the point of not daring to attack. Even big shots like Kanglin and I, Feng Qianli, and Fen Tianjue had died in Chu Fengmian's hands. What did these people count for? Hand it over. I'll hand it over. The disciples of the three major factions hesitated for a moment, then took out their spatial rings and threw them over. Chu Fengmian took it and nodded, allowing them to leave. But most of the disciples of the three major factions were still unwilling to hand over their spatial rings. These spatial rings contained all their treasures. No one was willing to hand it over for free. Damn it, I don't believe that he can kill all of us alone. Run. It's good that one of us can escape. He's just one person. Yes, we can escape. Why should we listen to him? The disciples of the three major factions looked at each other, then suddenly turned into countless streaks of light and rushed out. These streaks of light were extremely scattered, as if they wanted to make Chu Fengmian unable to stop them. You're courting death. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. He had already given these disciples of the three major factions a chance, since they didn't know how to cherish it. That would be courting death. All of you die. Chu Fengmian activated his spiritual energy and waved his hand. The countless streaks of light suddenly exploded in the air. Under Chu Fengmian's spiritual power, the disciples of the three major powers exploded one after another and died on the spot. In just an instant, all the disciples of the three major factions became dead people and directly turned into ashes, leaving nothing behind. And in Chu Fengmian's hand, there were countless spatial rings. Even if Chu Fengmian had the Blood Sea and was extremely rich, who would think that he had more wealth? Since these people of the three major factions were willing to give him money, Chu Fengmian naturally had to accept it. Let's go. Chu Fengmian glanced at Bai Xian and moved his body. The two of them moved and directly left the cave of Dragon Emperor Yan. Chapter 558. Disorderly Burial Sea. The disorderly burial sea was originally extremely dangerous. There were countless void beasts that formed groups and attacked cultivators. However, it was different today. There are no signs of void beasts in the disorderly burial sea. Instead, countless experts were shuttling through the sea. Countless void beasts seemed to have been killed by someone. This time, the North region is in an uproar. I wonder how many experts have benefited from it. Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian were shuttling through the disorderly burial sea. Chu Fengmian was aware of the changes in the disorderly burial sea. The ancient Dragon Emperor cave dwelling was not the only cave dwelling that had been opened in the disorderly burial sea. There were 6 cave dwellings that had been opened in a row. 6 ancient cave dwellings had appeared in the disorderly burial sea at the same time, attracting countless geniuses from the North region and even the entire 9 regions to gather here. That was why the disorderly burial sea had become so lively. You're the one who benefited the most. When you return to the North Sea Academy, you won't even need to be promoted to an inner disciple. You could be promoted to a seed disciple directly. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian and said with a smile. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, he would be an influential figure when he returned to the North Sea Academy. Once he was promoted to a seed disciple, he would become a core member of the North Sea Academy. He would be able to enter the North Sea Secret Realm and receive countless benefits. Chu Fengmian's strength had already reached such a level without the resources of the Northern Sea Academy. Once Chu Fengmian entered the Northern Sea Secret Realm to cultivate, his strength would most likely take another step forward and become even more terrifying. Bai Xian, you've also benefited a lot from the cave dwelling. When you return, you'll be promoted to a seed disciple. Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and said with a smile. Bai Xian's strength had reached the limit of the divine power realm in the ancient Dragon Emperor cave dwelling. She had benefited a lot from it. Now, she was even stronger than the former number 1 on the Earth ranking, Luo Chanen. She had benefited a lot from it. That's right. It's all thanks to you that I've benefited so much. Bai Xian said with a sigh. She had invited Chu Fengmian to explore Dragon Monarch Yan's cave. It was a win-win situation for both of them. As for Sikong Xian, who had truly obtained the ancient Dragon Emperor Yan cave dwelling, he had perished because he had schemed against Chu Fengmian. Let's go, Chu Fengmian. Let's leave the chaotic burial sea first. It's a chaotic place right now, and there are countless cultivators killing other cultivators in order to collect benefits. Bai Xian cautiously glanced around as she spoke. Oh, hearing this, Chu Fengmian spread out his spiritual awareness to investigate the disorderly burial sea. Sure enough, he saw a few martial artists intercepting and killing some martial artists who had just left the cave abode. These people did not enter the ancient cave abode to search for the treasure. Instead, they were waiting outside the ancient cave abode to ambush the others. Although the reward was not much, the risk was extremely low. Don't worry, they're just some despicable people. If they dare to come, I'll kill them. Chu Fengmian smiled and said, Let's go. Let's leave the disorderly burial sea first. As he spoke, Chu Fengmian turned into a ray of light and flew out. Bai Xian did the same and followed beside him. The disorderly burial sea was extremely huge. Although the two of them were extremely fast, it still took some time for them to reach the disorderly burial sea. We've obtained countless benefits from the ancient Dragon Emperor Yan cave abode. It's not a wise choice to return to the North Sea Academy now. Why don't we take this opportunity to go to the Void Sea Cucumber Trade Fair first? Bai Xian and Chu Fengmian conversed as they flew. Bai Xian said, We've obtained countless rare items. However, some of them are actually not suitable for us. We can exchange for rare items that are suitable for us at the trade fair. Although mystical items were extremely valuable, not every mystical item was useful. For example, the rare items that Chu Fengmian needed to cultivate the battle dragon skill were naturally related to the dragon tribe. As for other rare items, they were not very useful to Chu Fengmian. Therefore, generally speaking, it was best to exchange for rare items that were most suitable for oneself. Now that so many ancient cave abodes had opened in the disorderly burial sea, there would be countless rare items within. This was the best opportunity to purchase rare items. Chu Fengmian had a huge fortune now, so he needed to purchase rare items to increase his strength. Chu Fengmian thought for a moment and nodded. All right. Chu Fengmian had the blood sea and was extremely wealthy. Although his strength had reached the limit, some rare items could still increase his battle strength. For example, strengthening his body, increasing his bloodline, and so on. Although they did not increase his strength, they were enough to increase his strength. Before crossing the great calamity of life and death, it was best to accumulate as much as possible. Just as Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian were conversing in the void, several rays of light suddenly appeared in the surroundings. There were a total of 5 people. The moment they appeared, They immediately condensed their spiritual power and sealed the surrounding space. You too, I don't think you should go to the trade fair. Why don't you give me all the rare items you have? The 5 were middle-aged men, and each of them had reached the 3rd level of life and death realm. They were much stronger than the geniuses of many large factions. These 5 are the Void 5 Tyrants. They are the experts of the Void Ocean, and they kill martial artists every day. With the 5 of them working together, unless one is at the high level of life and death realm, few can escape from their hands. When Bai Xian saw the 5 of them, fear appeared on her face. Clearly, she knew who they were. However, Bai Xian did not panic. She was clear about Chu Fengmian's strength. Although the Void 5 Tyrants were powerful, they were far from being Chu Fengmian's match. Hearing Bai Xian's words, one of the Void 5 Tyrants laughed and said, "Oh, seems like you still know about the reputation of us Void 5 Tyrants. Good. Obediently hand over your spatial ring and all your spiritual tools, and I'll spare your lives." Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. Void 5 Tyrants? So it's 5 trash who kill martial artists in the Void Ocean? Since you've met me today, I'll kill you. It can be considered as removing a scourge for the Void Ocean. You. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the Void 5 Tyrants coldly said, "Since you refuse a toast, I'll drink a forfeit. If you don't hand over your spatial ring, I'll take it myself." One of the Void 5 Tyrants suddenly punched at Chu Fengmian. However, before he could punch out, Chu Fengmian's hand had already moved. A palm shot out of thin air. The Void 5 Tyrants were all sent flying, each of them vomiting blood. Chapter 559. The Void 5 Tyrants were sent flying by Chu Fengmian's palm. Their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. When the 5 of them joined hands, they could kill anyone unless they were facing a high-level life and death expert. But now, under Chu Fengmian's palm, they couldn't resist at all and were sent flying. With your strength, how is this possible? Nothing is impossible. Die, you bastards. Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. Before him, the Void 5 Tyrants were no different from ants. Just as Chu Fengmian was about to crush the Void 5 Tyrants, Bai Xian suddenly spoke. Chu Fengmian, leave their corpses intact. After hearing Bai Xian's words, Chu Fengmian nodded his head and killed the 5 cultivators with a single slap. However, he did not destroy their bodies, but simply shattered their souls with a mystical technique. Bai Xian came to the side of the Void 5 Tyrants and opened a spatial ring. She stored the bodies of the Void 5 Tyrants into it before speaking to Chu Fengmian. There's a bounty for the Void 5 Tyrants in the Void Ocean. It's not cheap. You can exchange their bodies for wealth. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and the spatial rings of the Void 5 Tyrants fell into his hand. He poured his spiritual power into the rings and opened them. Who knew how many martial artists these Void 5 Tyrants had killed? The amount of wealth he had on him was frightening. He even had quite a number of royal-grade spirit stones and other treasures. Inside the spatial ring, there was a thumb-sized fragment that attracted Chu Fengmian's attention. Seeing this thumb-sized fragment, Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. He held the fragment in his hand, and a familiar energy immediately entered his body. Sure enough, it's a fragment of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian was ecstatic. This thumb-sized fragment was actually a fragment of the Emperor Jar. Although this was only a fragment and a very small part of it, every fragment that was integrated into the Emperor's Jar would produce an unparalleled effect. Good. The fragments of the Emperor Jar have been scattered throughout the northern region and even the 9 regions. I didn't expect to find another one today. Could it be that I really have a chance to collect all the fragments of the Emperor Jar and reassemble them? That's right. Chu Fengmian was astonished. The fragments of the Emperor Jar were scattered in every corner of the 9 regions. It was extremely difficult for ordinary people to find even one of them. Chu Fengmian had already found the 3rd fragment. This was no longer something that could be described as luck. It could only be said that the Emperor Jar was destined to be with Chu Fengmian. The Emperor Jar's current state were only slightly stronger than a heaven spirit artifact. However, if all the fragments of the Emperor's jar could be found and combined, the power of an extreme immortal weapon would be enough to make the entire 9 zones tremble. Even the 7 great sects did not have a complete, extreme, Dao, immortal weapon. The appearance of a complete, extreme Dao, immortal weapon was enough to change the situation of the 9 regions. First, fuse the fragment fused. Chu Fengyan waved his hand, and the Emperor jar appeared in his hand. After sensing the power of the Emperor jar, the fragment flew directly into the jar. In the blink of an eye, they fused with the Emperor jar. One of the missing fragments disappeared, and the inscriptions on the jar became more complete. There are a total of 9 fragments of the Emperor's jar. I have already found the 2 largest fragments. However, whether I can find the rest depends on my luck. After absorbing the shard, Chu Fengyan's understanding of the mortal Emperor jar deepened, and he realized that the jar had been broken into 9 pieces. Chu Fengyan had found 3 of them. The remaining 6 fragments were scattered in every corner of the 9 regions. Every time I find a fragment of the Emperor jar, a part of its true power will be awakened, and its power will increase a lot. Chu Fengyan felt that the Emperor jar's power had increased a lot. As long as he obtained more fragments of the Emperor's jar, the power of the Emperor's jar would be fully unleashed. The Emperor jar's power will be restored. It's enough to make my trump card stronger. Chu Fengyan heaved a sigh of relief and put the Emperor jar away. Let's go. Let's leave for the Void Ocean, Chu Fengyan said to Bai Xian. The 2 figures turned into rays of light and set off. They left the disorderly burial sea and returned to the Void Ocean. In the Void Ocean, there were countless gathering places like the Starry Sky Peak. However, the largest one was the Primordial Chaos Continent, which was located at the center of the Void Ocean. The Primordial Chaos Continent was no longer a rock. It was an incomparably huge continent. It was like an independent space in the Void Ocean. It was the safest place in the Void Ocean. There were countless shops and even a few forces that operated there. Countless warriors would come to the Primordial Chaos Continent to buy and sell rare items and trade with each other. Some warriors even stayed in the Primordial Chaos Continent. After all, there were countless opportunities in the Void Ocean. It was the best place to cultivate. Bai Xian led Chu Fengyan and flew in the Void Ocean. Not long after, an incomparably huge continent came into view in front of them. This is the Primordial Chaos Continent. In such a dangerous place like the Void Ocean, how could there be such an area? This incomparably huge continent was much larger than many of the countries in the northern region. The void turbulence in the Void Ocean was such that even a pinnacle saint warrior would have to use his spiritual power to resist the void turbulence at all times. Chu Fengyan was surprised that such a huge continent could survive in the Void Ocean. This Primordial Chaos Continent seems to have been created by an almighty. Chu Fengyan glanced at the Primordial Chaos Continent and noticed that there were countless traces of artificial creation on the continent. To think that such a huge continent was actually created by humans. The expert who created the Primordial Chaos Continent with such strength was probably at the peak of the 9 regions. He was at the same level as Dragon Emperor Yan. Let's land first, Bai Xian said to Chu Fengyan. She brought Chu Fengyan down slowly from the Void Ocean and landed on the Primordial Chaos Continent. The Primordial Chaos Continent was the same as the countless colonies in the Void Sea. One had to pay a fee in order to enter. Bai Xian casually handed over some rare items of extremely low value and brought Chu Fengyan directly to the Primordial Chaos Continent. 5 chapters. Add 1 more. As long as I'm in a good state, I'll add as much as I can. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.